those up right now and start sharing with the world to your social media.
Which one, the YouTube?
Or the Facebook one, whatever you want. Like, I'm not that, you know what, for doing a podcast, I should be more like technologically advanced, and I am not. So we're gonna get a little music for the first minute. Now I got heard. You go live on TikTok, YouTube.
Is it like a Chinese? Is this like
No, tradition?
Yeah.
Not by me, not by the show. It doesn't. You guys are coming on to share your stories. I can't stop sharing your stories. If you decide to start promoting AA, that's on me. That's on you and your stories. Me, as what I do for the show. Me and Dave wouldn't come on this year. He's like, "You sure you're not breaking traditions?" Like, no, dude. And he kept saying, yeah, worldwide. No different than SNL putting out their on their website, having their meet speakers in the whole world. You see what I'm saying? Though? There is a loophole in a way, and I do get guys on here. I had Tony Hill on here. The only way you will have a happy, joy-free life is doing the 12 steps all about slamming his finger and saying that. And one of my only guests, I kind of like butted heads with. I'm like, not everybody. Like people, transcendental meditation work with some guys who got 30 years right now. Church worship, you know, like that's his.
or you gonna bring up
Hey, it's your story, but you can bring up AA saved my life, but it's not saying there's a difference between telling the world Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life versus you should go get Alcoholics Anonymous. It can save your life. That's the difference. Like in my mind, because my story is I was a heroin junkie and Alcoholics Anonymous did save my life.
right.
I mean, but I'm not telling you, hey, you're a heroin junkie. Go find your There's no time. You can be done in 20 minutes or in 5 hours. No, it's however the vibe goes, or story. I'm just almost done sharing it and we go like, and then I got one guy who'll be coming in here and so today I'm just sharing all these different. Oh, and I got one time a guy bring it together. I have a guy bring it together. His name is You'll see in a sec. We're about to go live in a second. He'll introduce himself. But I want you to replenish your mind. No. But we're going to start with you. That way we don't interrupt. For now, on air, you can handle those within the block. All right. I'm about done. So we're 2 minutes in. Give me a second, audience. Friends of Bill. Enlighten. It's all out. Do this every week. I mean, let's turn you off. Let's go live. Let's go live, everybody. Welcome back to the Attitude for Gratitude podcast down here at Will Work for Recovery. All right, let me just take a breath. I got a little worked up. 40. Check out my post on Facebook. 4026 Washington Avenue North. Will Work for Recovery. We're open 7 days a week. Come on down here, get part of what you're going to hear about tonight, and get involved. This is an interactive show tonight. So if you have questions for my guests throughout their shares, my number is going across the bottom. You can reach out to me directly, or as always, you can go to the messages and post questions. If for some reason I don't get to them tonight, you know it's nothing personal. Same as every week. So with that said, I've got a few things I want to talk about with you guys. I'll turn off the music. for starters. There we go. Now I hope you hear me again. So we got a lot of things coming up. We got the Spring Fling, which is an amazing event, 3rd annual Spring Fling down at Boom Island. Hang on. I got a piece of paper to prove I'm not going to say wrong stuff to you guys this week. 3rd annual Spring Fling, June 7th, down at Boom Island. Boom Island, 724 Sibley Street. It's in the Boom Island Pavilion. It's a luau themed fundraiser. Prizes for best dress. There's kids game, relay races, minnow races. There's a pancake breakfast by Brad B at 9 a.m. We got the 50-50 raffle. There's just, as always, like if you've been to the event in the past, like it's a blast. Like check it out, get involved, come on down. Here's the other thing. If you want to be part of the event side of things, the planning and the running the events and being part of like a service position, reach out to me or come on down to We'll Work for Recovery and get involved. Yes. Oh yeah. P.S. We are in the fishbowl and people are going to sit and watch us during the show. So just like block it out if you can. Sorry. Good. Also, as always, the Soapstone Factory is here at We'll Work for Recovery, and you're going to hear all about it in about 2 minutes. Wednesday at 5 p.m. we have a men's meeting and a women's meeting. Every night at 7 p.m. we have meetings, and we started the 1 p.m. meetings back up here at We'll Work for Recovery. Every day of the week, 1 p.m. Cassandra's down here. Anyone's welcome to come on down. It's an open meeting. Also, we have a 6:30 a.m. structured meeting down here at We'll Work for Recovery. And remember that we do have, like I said, every night of the week we have a 7 p.m. meeting, but Tuesday nights we have our Wellbriety meeting. It's starting to really grow legs. A lot of people are showing up. It's a Native American-based meeting. I've been kind of co-chairing it with Dwayne, who comes in here shortly, who's going to be doing the little TikTok thing. But check it out. Like, it's been a whole new side of my recovery. It's pretty dope. Like, we do some indigenous readings, and like we do this thing called smudging before the meeting, which I was clueless about. And every week I'm like, what does smudging mean? Just so they explain it to everyone else, because I didn't know when I walked in. But it was pretty cool. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Wellbriety meeting. Come check it out. Like I said, every day of the week, We'll Work for Recovery's got some stuff going on. Tonight, you're going to hear some stories, as I always tell you guys, from some people that will share about their recovery and where they found their recovery. We don't gatekeep our recovery, and I strongly suggest if you got ideas about, if you got any suggestions about good meetings or things you want the world to know about, post it on there. Post it. Like, we don't gatekeep meetings. I always bring up usually New Hope Allano, Fridley Allano, Blaine Allano, 2218, We'll Work for Recovery. I bring up stuff like Serenity Village or Eagle Brook Church. We don't keep this stuff. We get to share about it. So if you're out there struggling tonight, stay tuned. Like, listen to some of the solution out of these people's stories that are on the air tonight. Get involved. Come on down, and like, you're worth it. If you haven't been told that today or like lately, like, you're worth this life. If you're tuned in hearing this beautiful voice, get some of this recovery. It's here for the taking, and like, we get it. Mental health's a real thing. Seek professional help if you need. But you don't have to be alone, and you're not alone, and you're loved by me. So, attitude for gratitude. We're gonna get this thing banging. We're gonna start off with the homeboy Chucky Chuck, and he's got some gifts, as he does every week. So, young man, who are you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I just realized I was an hour late getting here.
You're good. Who are you?
You
know me. I'm going to push you along. Who are you?
I'm Chucky.
And what do you do here at We'll Work for Recovery?
I make something that I like to hand out to people that are struggling, in hopes that it'll be a stone of hope that they'll be able to take something good from it, you know.
Oh. So it's what is the product?
It's called the Armor of Yah. It's the soap of hope, and it's a stone of hope.
So you have a factory here, a soapstone factory where you make soap, correct?
Yep.
And
I love giving the soap to people with the message on it in hopes that it'll uplift them.
What is in the soap? How do you make, like, is it all that, like the acids and the
It's
stuff that shelf life and all that?
no,
Oh.
it's anointed olive oil, coconut oil, distilled water, cinnamon, oatmeal, lye, and the main ingredients is love.
Oh,
So you forget to say this, but I always want to make sure people know, like, this is a product like you're very passionate about. You had a vision a long time ago about it, and you shared your vision with Paul, and he said, we want that here. And you've been doing it ever since. With that, also, you pray into the soap. There's separate steps. You pray over the soap at each step, and then you pray about the soap. Like, this is anointed soap, correct?
It is. There's a prayer that I do straight out of the Bible that I do in Hebrew. It's the same prayer that Jesus did, that he prayed over the disciples and the masses with. This is the prayer that's sprinkled in and spoken into the ingredients. And it's my hope that whoever uses the soap, that they'll receive the blessing that is stirred in with the soap and the message.
Heck yeah.
We-
And now go ahead and present it.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. This is a stone of hope right here. Here's one for you.
And he's going to come swap those out because those are my personal ones.
And
But you
then
can smell it,
here's one
whatever.
for you.
oh.
And I'll bring you down the
The
the-
official ones.
updated one. Yeah.
Everyone who gets one is always like, and here's the thing. If you want some of the soap, come check it out. He just sets it out. He does accept, like, if you come down to the center, he accepts donations, but anyone that wants them, come get some. And anyone who's got some comes back for more. Chucky, you want to bless the show before I
Yeah.
take you out?
It's my hope that whoever uses the soap, whoever gets the soap, I pray that they'll receive the blessing every time they use the soap. And here's the blessing. I'll say it in Hebrew like Jesus said it, and then I'll do it in English. But this is how I anoint the soap. As I sprinkle it in, this is what I say.
Yep, go ahead.
Yivarechecha Adonai Vayishmarecha Ya'er Adonai Penavalecha Vichunecha Yaseh Adonai Penavalecha V'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he shine his face upon you and be gracious to you. And may he turn his face towards you and give you peace. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Watch this repeat. Chucky, I love you, brother. Thanks for coming on as always. All right. Well, now I'm echoing again. That was Chuck Cohen, the man with the soap. And now we're going to get this show going. All right. You guys ready? We got Sam and Terry in the house tonight. And like I said, if you got questions for them throughout, let me know and we'll get you all linked up. Boom, bada boom. Who wants to start tonight?
No,
Oh, we're gonna arm wrestle.
you invited me.
What's that noise? Is that your phone vibrating?
It is.
Okay, no worries. Thought it's something with the mics.
No, we're good.
The
We're
audio
good.
could be like, Cam, your mics are out. All right. Who are you, young man?
My name is Terry.
Welcome to the show, Terry.
Thank you.
Typically, I know you listen every week for the last 3 years, so you know exactly how it goes. But I'll recap it for you so you have an idea of what we're gonna do tonight, in case I change some things up.
Right.
So first, before my audience yells at me, when you're sharing, just try to get close to your mic. And what we usually do is just have you kind of tell some of your story. You can make it as long as you want, as short as you want, little, experience, strength, and hope. People will ask questions throughout. I'll slightly interrupt, not on purpose, but it's me. I interrupt. So right when you're in a really good flow, I usually pipe up. So tell us about yourself. What's up, man? Why'd you get into these rooms? How'd you end up where you're at today?
Well, I guess there's obviously a big story. I I started getting loaded pretty early, 12 years old, and you know, it was absolutely the most wonderful thing I'd ever experienced in my entire life as a human being, to be perfectly honest with you. I found my love, and you know, but I honestly believe that the first time that I used was the only time that I got loaded willingly. I think that after that, it was going to happen. It had to happen. And then when I wanted to stop, couldn't stop, and came in, and I don't know. You know,
All right, I might have to get you going right now.
Yeah,
So
get me going.
I know. It's not a conventional SNL share because I'm gonna just keep you going and
Right.
interrupting, but I'm gonna just both of you, so you know, like I'm gonna be asking certain questions where you guys are gonna be like, oh, no shit, like it's gonna be the type of stuff we know, but there's listeners that aren't in recovery. There's listeners on the fence about getting in recovery. There's people that are hanging on by the edge of their seats that listen to this show just by the feedback I've gotten. So I'm going to be asking some questions that for us, it's a no-brainer. And I already got a question. I usually do when people say something like you just said was, you took that first drink. That was you realized the first time is willing. So your journey goes on and you realize that, hey, you had this allergic or you had this, what do we call it? There's words for it out of our big book. When did you realize that you were willing the first time and the first time only? Like, when did that epiphany hit you?
Oh man. Probably a couple of years ago.
So you went from 12,
I went, you know, yeah, I was 12. I mean, you know, the first thing that I did was not drink alcohol. The first thing that I did was I smoked pot.
Yeah.
Right. And dude, it was absolutely the most beautiful thing I'd ever enjoyed in my, you know. And then when I started drinking, you know, as much as you can for 13, 14-year-old kid living in a small town in South Dakota, you know, I drank as much as I possibly could, whenever I could. Right. And I did that up until the day that I sobered up.
So you went, all right, so like 13, 14, 15, like, experience. We talk about experience drinking. Yep. So your experience is like you drank, and it sounds like already you're talking about it was more than just drinking. There were some mood altering substances.
Yeah.
Do you have consequences throughout that long span of drinking?
Oh, absolutely.
So how, I guess that for me to sit and
so like my mom won a case of assorted vodkas from one of the bars downtown. And it was during my 8th grade year. And luckily for me at that time, her boyfriend was a drunk. So I blamed it on him. I drank pretty much this entire case of vodka as my 8th grade year went. And I flunked the 8th grade. That was my first consequence, man. I flunked the 8th grade.
And that was from your choices of,
you know, yeah. I mean, you know, I really, you know, here's the thing, man. And this is probably going to be, but I think alcohol gets a bad rap.
Come on.
You know what I mean? I think alcohol gets a really bad rap. I think there's a lot of people out there that enjoy alcohol sanely, right? Who don't have the allergy and who don't have the mental obsession. And I need both of them to be an alcoholic, because if I just had the phenomenon of craving, then I just don't drink.
Right.
And if I just had the mental obsession, then I just have a couple. Right.
Right.
And I can have a couple. I can hit the state of, you know, which is what I've been searching for my entire life, is hitting that state of ease. You know, I can take a breath. I can, you know what I mean? I can be comfortable in my own, but you got to have both. Right. And, and then after that, you know, it's just, but see, I never knew that until I got into a 12-step program, and I just thought I changed my mind. Right. I thought I had control over what I was doing. When I was 19, I wake up and I was shaking. Right. I'd shake. And so what I did, obviously, because that's what we do, right? I pre-diagnosed myself because, I'm a carpenter, and I have my medical degree in carpentry. And I pre-diagnosed myself, and I decided that I just start doing more drugs to kind of wean off the alcohol a little bit. And very quickly, I was just doing more drugs and drinking. You know what I mean?
No, and I like how you broke it down about alcohol getting a bad rap. And
yeah,
I think that's across the board with a lot of this stuff too, like the drug, weed, all this stuff. And everyone's story is a little different. Welcome to the show, young man.
Because when I stopped drinking, that didn't change my behavior. You know what I mean? I kept on.
Right.
So we like the mental. All right. And I'm gonna bring this back to that first question I asked you. So once you got into this life of recoveries, when you noticed what all that stuff was that you ended up going through from the age of 12 to how old were you when you cleaned up?
Dude, I don't know. How old am I right now?
I don't know, what, 80,
40.
Something? Okay, so 25, 30 years of this stuff.
Right.
Like during that time, was there any recovery involved at all?
Absolutely. I mean, I followed court orders quite often, right? Every time I get into trouble, they'd sentence me to a 12-step program, and I'd go to that, not the program, I'd go to the fellowship, and I'd sit around the fellowship, and I'd listen to people talk about how bad their life sucked. Right. And I was like, my life, I don't want to be, miserable for the next 30 or 40 years. Right. I want to, at least I can do that and still drink. I can
still do what I know gives me that.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily, believe me, the consequences that surrounded my life, the wonderful effects started, but it still worked, basically still worked, and I thought that's what it was. I thought that's what this fellowship was. I thought it was going to meetings and complaining about my problems, and then going and to barbecues and handing out bratwurst all day long. And I mean, I'd ended up in I call them asylums, and I do the trust falls, and I do the yoga, and I do the art class, and I do the, sitting in rooms listening to whales make noise with needles in my ears for acupuncture. I mean, I did everything to try and combat this this disease that I have.
I know we're jumping. I keep jumping us at this point of all that stuff you've just shared about going through all that stuff you've went through. And was any of that time, did you want what you know now? Looking back, did you want recovery? Like, did you want to be able to stop doing the drugs and alcohol, or was it all just forced on you type of a situation?
Yeah, I think there were moments where but I couldn't imagine life without alcohol.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I couldn't imagine us living sober. I go to AA meetings and I'd listen, or I'd go to meetings and I'd listen to people complain about their lives, and I knew they were sober. Right. I knew that
was sober. Your experience. That's
right. And then I'd hear somebody who was happy, joyous, and free, and I'm like, there is no way that dude is sober. There's no way. There's no way she's sober. There's no way he's sober. They got to be doing something on the side.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, there were times, and I spent a long time not drinking until I had to drink, and then drinking until I had to stop. You know what I mean? And then drinking until this continuous wave of misery of stopping and starting and stopping and starting. And
So I know I'm going to have you backtracking. What was the moment in Terry's life that was like, all right, it's going to change now? Because we have all heard this, and anyone out there listening, like people that go out and relapse and they come back, usually the first question you hear everyone asks, what's going to be different this time? Like explain to us when it became the future for you. You know what I'm asking?
Like, when did I decide that this is, I mean, the thing about it was, man, is that I got to a point where I didn't have any more answers for the disease that I had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All my plots and schemes and scams and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to treatment, I'm going to go to church, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, I'm just, eventually, man, I didn't have any of that going on in my head anymore. It was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. I don't know what I'm going to do. And at that point in time, like a teacher showed up in my life. Right.
What do you mean by a teacher?
A sponsor.
Okay.
And
okay.
And I mean, we went up I was 3 days sober, and we went up into this room at this particular Alano club. And I don't know, he just talked different than I've ever heard anybody talk before. He didn't talk about getting off probation. He didn't talk about getting off parole. He didn't talk about getting back in the big bed. He didn't talk about getting boo back. He didn't talk about getting my driver's license back. He talked about completely changing my entire life. And I don't know what it was, but I walked up to him after the meeting and I asked him to be my sponsor.
On day 3.
Yep. And he said, what are you willing to do? I said, I'm willing to do anything. And he's like, get in my truck. And I was like, oh,
yeah, I've heard you share. Yeah. Damn. I wish I didn't know what I know. Cause I don't want to jump through and egg on a certain story that I know I've heard you tell. So you get this, a gentleman in your life. Now we know as a sponsor, but, have you had a spiritual awakening at that point, or have you ever?
Oh yeah. I definitely
share about it.
Well,
right,
I mean,
okay.
I think my spiritual awakening has been obviously of the educational variety. It's something that's transpired over time. It talks about, a spiritual awakening is, I don't want to say ever. I very rarely think about drinking or getting loaded as a solution to what's going on in my life. My focus is on helping another alcoholic or a drug addict at all times, right? I don't got anything else going on in my life. That's it. I mean, I don't, man, I'm not going to break my arm patting myself on the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For doing things that normal people do every day.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, I haven't been to jail in a long time. I haven't been in a fist fight in a long time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I haven't done in a long time that I couldn't stop doing before I came into this 12-step program.
So like you shared about, all right, you rarely think about taking a drink for being a solution of a problem today. And that, compare that to the desire. Like you've lost the desire to drink.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. So the desire to drink versus that being a solution to your problems, because if people don't understand, explain what you mean by alcohol being a solution of your problems.
I think anyone who's ever drank knows what I mean by that.
What about the ones that don't know?
You take that first couple of whatever, and every problem you have just goes away.
Right.
It's a spiritual awakening.
Right.
It's a sense of ease and comfort. It talks about the sense of ease and comfort that I have when alcohol, and I think that works for most people. Right. I think I don't know. I'm not most people, but I think that works for most people. My grandfather had a couple of cocktails at night, And he's never done any of the things that I've done, but it relaxed him and probably helped him sleep. And I don't know.
That's a part of the alcohol getting a bad rap.
Right.
No, I get it. I get
Right.
it. No, I haven't heard anyone really kind of share about it in that light before. And I'm glad you worded it how you did. Because I agree with you 100% on that, because it does. Although alcohol is the one thing you need an excuse not to do. You don't need an excuse, but when you're out and someone says, "Hey, you wanted a cocktail?" No, why? You don't ask. Well, I guess depending on the circles you're. I was gonna say they don't say that with a line of Coke, but yeah, some places they do. It depends on the company you keep. So you said your spiritual awakening was of the educational variety.
No.
Have you had one of these burning bush moments that people talk about?
Never. Probably. I don't know. I think never. Right before I sobered up, I was in jail, and I kind of had a burning bush experience when I was in jail. I was sitting down, and I get into jail, right? And whenever I get into jail, I'm always about the Bible. And the last time I went to jail, so I pop it open. I'm going to read Genesis, right?
Is that the very beginning?
Very beginning.
Yeah.
And and I was at the end, man. I was at what they call the jumping off point, right? And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go read Revelations. That's more a little bit my speed, you know. And I started reading out of this book, and one of the, you know, I was only there for 10 days. They pulled me out of court. I was supposed to do some house arrest stuff. And I'm like, whatever, I'm not doing that, dude. You know, so they pulled me out, and I was only doing 10 days. And I was reading through Revelations, and there's, I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says some of you, you know, you're going to be put in jail for 10 days, you know? And, if that thing would have exploded, I would have, or caught on fire, I would have been less surprised than I was by what I read.
What you read.
And I felt this peace come over me like I've never felt before in my life. Just this peace. And I laid down on my rack and I went to sleep. And I rarely ever slept when I was in jail, but I slept really good. So that's about, I mean, that's about
that's the stuff that people, I've already got multiple people really, they're looking for that.
But see, I got out of jail.
Did you stop?
That was done.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous.
You want a little pedestal moment? Here you go. Terry W. wouldn't be here today without that man. You got a fan base out there.
No, I don't, man.
Yeah.
I can try to pedestal him. It doesn't work.
No,
but whatever. I like you. You know what? You shared about it. You heard a guy sharing about something that you hadn't heard no one else sharing about up until this point. Maybe you weren't listening, or maybe you hadn't been around the right meetings. But you were placed. You were in this position. You heard someone share something that changed your life.
It did. It made me angry at first.
Which means,
so when I started getting the solution, right, I started going back to these meetings, and I started waiting for someone to say something stupid. And I take it out on them. Because that's not
just like Dave, I'm gonna drink it.
That's not part of this. That's not part of this at all. And I just go off. And you know, I was getting thrown out of meetings and stuff because I was a maniac. I mean, I was a maniac. You know what I mean? I don't, you know, when we sober up, man, it's not just an instantaneous, you know, thing. We're still out there bumping off people, and running into people and stepping on toes. And like, I'm just learning how to live. And, you know, I've calmed down a little bit, but I still believe in the solution. I still believe in the solution, and I will not, because I know, man, I you know, one of the things I talk about is how many funerals I've been to. You know what I mean? And man, I'm sick and tired of going to funerals. I'm sick and tired of it. Not when, and especially when you don't have to.
Yeah. No, that's the hard part. You know, once you catch this thing we've got,
right,
that pisses. I get to an anger. There's this anger thing where it's like, you're right. You're right. You don't have to.
No,
people don't have to die.
You don't have to die.
You don't have to. It's like, I don't know. I'm sick of t-shirts with faces on them.
Yeah. I was just telling her before when we got here is that when someone here goes, they make t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a couple hanging in there.
Yeah.
And it's like at one point I remember it was right when the show started. I was sick of letting balloons go. It was just I was at 4 or 5 funerals like 5 summers ago, and I was like, I'm sick of fucking letting balloons go, dude. Oh, at a funeral, everyone lets these balloons go up to the heavens or whatever. It's like,
Right.
and this was after I really had caught the message, and it's like you're right. It for me it was quite frustrating, but I think you also said something like. For me, it was like, and it still is to this day when I'm affected by something someone says, and I get all pissed off, like someone sharing in a meeting, and I'm like, they're talking about me, or it's what I need to hear.
Absolutely.
It's what I need to hear.
Right. It's okay to be uncomfortable.
Get comfortable.
Matter of fact, it's you have to be uncomfortable
grow
if you want to grow. A guy told me if it's sun all the time, you just get a desert.
Dried up. Do you work with do you all right? So I noticed how you've been sharing. You're being kind of careful about what you're saying, and that's all good.
He knows you.
No, it's all good. Like I said, like it's your story. How you share it's your story, and that's all good. Like you said, at some specific location there was a guy. But so some
Well, it
guy,
was a Fridley Allen. I really
and no, it's all good. What I'm saying is like you shared about there's a guy 3 days in at you asked him to sponsor you. Do you sponsor people?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What does that do for you?
Well, if you've never sat across from across a table from another alcoholic or drug addict, and your life is falling apart, right? Because we get sober doesn't mean that everything is wonderful and beautiful and awesome. And read from this book or that book or whatever, and have. What do I say? The only thing I can say is the spirit of recovery of God come over you. And there's a spiritual book that I've read that says, it just lifts me up and sets me on the right path.
Are you talking about one of the fellowship books?
Yeah.
All right. I'm like, what book? Because I already got someone that says what book. But the big one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. It's our literature. But see, it's not breaking a tradition for you to tell me what helps save your ass. But I get it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
it's good. I can respect that.
It's
almost like you have responsibilities in your recovery where you got to be careful.
I would rather give out my phone number than break a tradition.
You just heard what he said. So if you want, reach out to me and we'll get you his number if you're interested. We're gonna pimp you out tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna get into some other type questions then because we did already. Some people spend 40 minutes in here explaining how they got to their point of recovery.
Okay.
What? I want the inside joke or the secret. Is that what I'm going to hear next?
I'm kind of just looking at her and I was like, when does she get to go?
Oh, we do you, then her.
Oh, okay.
I guess we could try interacting stories. I've never.
No, that's good.
Yeah, that's cool though too.
Whatever. Let's do whatever.
I don't know if you want. I mean, we'll get fired up off each other. So.
Yeah, that comes. We do a little bit of your story, then we do your story, and then we bop. And you know what? I'm always saying this too. Like, if you got ideas for the show or it's your show, here's how we doing it.
Right.
I'm all backwards. Who are you, young lady?
My name's Sam.
Sam, welcome to the show. Tell me about yourself.
Just in general.
Sure.
Okay. Well, this is all new for me. I'll let you know that I was happy I came early because I'm from Owatonna. Mm-hmm. And so that 5:30, 6 o'clock traffic in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Talk about spiritual principles. They did bend.
How long you been in recovery?
I've been sober since July 12th of 2019.
Hey, Terry, how long you been sober?
January 27th, 2016.
We celebrate clean time in this room. We celebrate recovery. All right, now, my game's all thrown out here.
Look,
That's what
we got
do.
him frazzled.
That's what we do.
All right, start bouncing. Come on, guys. Let's talk recovery.
Well, I just think it's like I was thinking about like when we brought up like sponsorship, that idea. Like I remember going through a breakup and I was on my way to meet with a sponsee and I'm like bawling in the car and I get out and we read the big book together and I don't think about myself once. And I get in the car and I instantly start crying. And it was like that couple hours I spent in this book with someone completely took me out of me. You know, and like Terry's, like if you haven't experienced that, like that is the only thing that has been able to pull me out of my own head when my life feels like it's crumbling.
It's almost like a 12-step, something I've heard in a 12-step.
I know.
Right.
But I always say our well, not our predecessors. Well, in a way, yeah, but Bill and Bob, these fellows who wrote a book that we're referencing, like they're wizards, methodical wizards.
Oh God, yeah.
But also my dumbass in early recovery, I'm like, yeah, it's common sense. While I'm busy with you, I'm not drinking.
Right.
Like I got it figured out.
Right.
But it's in retrospect, it's kind of what it was. Working with another suffering alcoholic or addict. I'm too busy helping you with your shit. Or Dave said it once, and I've quoted it almost every month, if not every week on here. Is people come in and they're whining about their sponsees or something. Oh, they're having an issue with God, or they're all worried about this or the God issue. And Dave always be like, did you drink while working with your sponsor?
Right.
No. Oh, so it's working. Like, so the power of working with someone else is like the biggest part for you.
Oh, 100%.
You too?
There's absolutely nothing else. I mean, you know, besides the mantra that I do in the morning, whether you know, and the inventories that I take,
Right.
I mean, but you know, it says in here, when all else fails, work with another alcoholic, save the day. Period. End of sentence.
Was this your like recognizing point? Was that your when you recognized it really works that way for you? Or was there, you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, it's hard to say because I didn't know that in the moment. Like when that happened, I had no idea. You know, it's like I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, like there's all this evidence where it's like time and time again, I get saved from myself. Ooh.
Hey, and you two can bounce questions off each other too.
No, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'm
Oh,
listening
yeah.
for now.
I'm an asshole sometimes. So you're Owatonna, right?
Yep.
You said, is that where the majority of all your recovery's been? Come
Come
on.
Yeah, so I mean, I got sober in Owatonna. And so I did move up here to do sober living for like 6 months. And I had I went to Uptown House. It was like the first group that I had ever went to. And but I majority of my sobriety, the first probably like 2.5 years was spent in Owatonna, you know, and I want to be careful about what I say because, you know, there is people watching. I think you don't know what you don't know, you know, and so like Terry was talking about, I was going to, you know, and I have to watch myself now, but like this, like meaty makers make it, just don't drink, you keep coming back. And I think there hit a point where I was coming back, I was making meetings and I wasn't making it. Like I was hanging on by a thread, you know? And so I think what I heard was, how did your life, like it was like horror stories about, it was like a competition. You know what I mean? Like, well, I've been to the psych ward 6 times. Well, I've been to the psych ward 8 times. Well, I blew a 0.31. I blew a 0.46. You know, like this was the kind of stuff. Like, how did our life get better when we took the alcohol away from it?
Solution? Like,
Right.
you mean like solution-based type stuff?
And you know what's crazy is that when you do stop drinking and doing drugs, it is like easier to hold a job.
Imagine that.
You know, like I don't know, you could try it sometime, you know, but like the internal condition, You know, I remember being at the gym 2.5 years sober and looking at the clock, and I was like, I cannot leave until 10 o'clock when the liquor store closes. And I'm
Always like
two and a
that.
half years sober. You know, and so I think I was going to meeting, you know, and there was one guy, I'll never forget it. And oh my God, this is how you know I'm in the wrong meetings. We get done with something earlier. I don't know if it was like a pin night or something. And then the guy's like, I'm just like feeling really moved, you know, like Sam, is there something on your mind? And I take this meeting hostage. I mean, I am like crying in this meeting for 15 minutes talking about my problems. And finally I go to a meeting, and you know, it's like, keep coming back, it'll get better. And I come back the next day, and finally this one guy, this one old timer looks at me and he's like, who are you helping? And I've been sitting in meetings for 2.5 years, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
But like, Terry, I'm going to ask you this. Like, would you blame? It's not about blame, but
Right.
like but the topic of this conversation, like, I don't see her being at fault. If this is what you've been surrounded by, and this is all you know because this is all you've been around, like,
No, the fellowship is weak.
come on. Rick
Fellowship
B
is
comes on
weak.
here and talks to us, and people.
The fellowship is so weak.
Watered down.
Because we think that we have to make everybody that walks through those doors happy. You know, I'm not a kiss you on the forehead, pat you on the poo-poo kind of a guy.
Come on.
Right? We have gangsters that come in here and like, I just need to take some time for my. No, dude. No.
We're talking about saving lives here.
Right.
So come on.
Right.
And you know, it's sometimes you gotta, I mean, you know, what it says is that what I say, like if I'm talking to this guy for the first time, what I have to say has to have some depth and weight to it,
Come on.
right? To get them to, because that's what's effective, right? You know, one of the things that I say whenever I speak, and you can attest to this, is I will tell them somebody in this room is going to be dead in a year, right?
Numbers
And
don't
that
lie.
is frothy emotional appeal. It truly is, because I'll tell you what, it always
It's
happens,
the truth.
Right.
right?
It's not that he's not saying, oh, he wants someone. He's stating facts that he's
No,
experienced.
yeah,
From his number of funerals.
from my,
Yeah.
you know, I think a friend of mine stopped counting at like 300. So, yeah,
I shared it last week. My counselor told me, Tim, you're in recovery. Go buy 3 suits.
yep,
Mm.
Come on. What's the rest of it?
black suit.
Yep.
You're going to be going to a lot of funerals.
And you're going to get jobs because your life's getting better. And if you decide to go back out, your mom has something nice to bury you in.
Yep,
That fucking hit hard.
black hits at all.
Boom. So 2.5 years in, and some guy checks the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, who you helping? What do you do from there? How play this one out for me? Like, how does your recovery go from that point on?
Well, you know, it's really interesting because I feel like it's kind of like the opposite story of like what most people go through, right? Is like, I feel like it's kind of rare to like come in and be able to like maintain sobriety for 2 years and not do any of the work, you know? And so I
Right.
think, call it grace, call it luck, call it whatever. But I think I had been introduced to a man who I met at Uptown House, who goes to a meeting I go to, 1099 Pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I had kept getting these texts like during COVID, like, hey, you know, we know a lot of meetings are shut down, but like we're open, you know, like
Oh,
come
nice.
like come on up, you know. And I kept putting it off and putting it off and it's so funny. I still have them. I just looked the other day. I'm like, how many times do you have to text me before I finally decided to come up, you know? And I came up and like, I knew instantly that like there was something different about that room than the rooms I had been sitting in. And I will tell you that they were talking about this guy before the meeting about how they didn't know if they would be able to stay sober if they went through what he went through. I had no idea what they were talking about. And this guy comes in and he's sharing that night, and he just buried his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I didn't know where else to come. This is where I go Monday nights. You know, and I am working out at the gym, and I've got a job, and I have all these material things because I've gotten sober, and I'm at the gym falling apart at the seams internally, right? I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm crawling out of my skin. And this is a guy that just buried his daughter, and he showed up to be useful. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but I need some of this.
Yeah, perspective. And I guess the way I'm over here in my head, I'm still like stuck on this thing, trying to make excuses for you. Like, well, how'd you go 2.5 years without finding any solution? Is it just because you're at the wrong type of meetings? And like, just for podcast sakes, because now we're past that. But like, someone else who's stuck in someone with 1.5 years listening right now, and they're miserable.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Go help someone.
Most of the women I sponsor aren't new. Most of the women I sponsor are people who have been sober for a while. And when they hear me talk about that internal condition at 2 years sober, they're the ones that come up and say, can you help me?
Come on.
I mean, me too. I mean, I came in here pretty banged up. You know, I'll tell you, when I met that dude at the Fridley Alano, and he said, get in my truck. And I was like, oh, no, man. You know, I was like, and then I was like, you know what? I might as well. If he kills me, at least I won't be miserable anymore.
Right? Like, share this.
And we were driving down the road, and you know, this man said to me, he said, tell me what you know about staying sober. And I started talking. Right? And I went on for a good, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And when I was done with my rant, the thought went through my head, because I've been living under the umbrella of potential my entire life.
Yeah.
Right. I literally thought, man, that was pretty good. You know, Martin Luther King Jr. couldn't have delivered a more inspirational message on hope and love and sobriety and that. And this dude looked at me and he said the words that saved my life. You are the dumbest fucking man I have ever met in my life, and you need to shut up. You're not allowed to talk at AA meetings anymore.
How'd you feel? Like, after that? I mean, that goes through your head, what you thought, you know, Malcolm X type speech, and he put you in your place. What was your reaction?
Dude, I just kind of sat back in my seat. I wasn't used to having people talk to me like that.
You knew he was real? Like,
I knew. Well, you know, he kept on, and he's like, because, you know, there's people in Alcoholics Anonymous that might be dumb enough to listen to you. And the thought that went through my mind was, well, then wouldn't they be the stupidest fucking people?
Right. No.
But, you know, I didn't say that because I was in his vehicle. And, you know, dude, this guy took me. I was in a sober house. He was at my house 5 minutes after I was able to leave. He dropped me off 5 minutes before I had to be home every single day for a month. And then he took me and put me into a sober house that was owned by the member of the groups that we went to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so then I was with these guys. You know, having people around you that are doing the deal. Like, I can go walk right out into this room and find 50 people who are going to say, I can find anything I want to find.
Yep.
But the people that are going to stick by me, and that's what, you know, that's why I brought Sam. I know Sam's not afraid to tell me what's up.
So it's not devil's advocate, but earlier we said the fellowship's watered down. We kind of beat up the fellowship. I hear what you're sharing about is a fellowship.
I didn't beat up the fellowship.
All right, not beat. All right, come on. Let's go into depth on this one.
Well, I mean, you know,
but you hear what I'm saying. Like,
I do.
Media makers make it.
Well, no, right, but no. Here's the thing: like with the sick brain, how do I figure out what the
right?
Your heart found that.
Here's, and this is not going to be, but I think that there's a lot of people in recovery that do not need to be here.
I don't get it. What do you mean?
And they are the ones that are walking around 15, 16 years sober saying meeting makers make it.
Yeah.
Just go to meetings. I have one guy who used to tell me, if you don't drink, you're a hero. He used to tell me that.
We should be
You should
patted
tell
on the
us
back
that,
for not
yeah.
drinking.
You know what I mean? And like I can negate that with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's pointing at a big book.
And I'm not saying that I'm not
Spoiler
saying
alert.
that his like he doesn't, but shut up. Because you're killing people.
Yeah, opinions kill.
Right.
When what you think, feel, and believe is the problem, I probably shouldn't share what I think, feel, or believe.
Right. I need to shit. My greatest character defect is I love to give you my opinion on an experience that I've never had.
Right.
Draw a map to somewhere you've never been.
Right. Right. So I'll
Yo.
be 2-3 days sober and start talking about making amends. I'm perfectly okay with that. What I don't understand is that sometimes people listen.
Well,
You know
that's
what I
about-
mean?
Early we shared that there's some people they can quote the big book like you've never heard.
Yep.
Right.
And for some reason they've been in these rooms for 15 years, but I haven't seen them with more than 3 months now. I mean,
Yeah.
but there's people in my head right now, I can see their faces. The way they shared I was enamored with it. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, he relapsed. Oh, and he relapsed again. And the next 4 or 5 years, and whatever the case is, but like I think it bringing it back to what I was trying to say is like, it was your heart or that your gut. What was it that ended up picking the fellowship that ended up being part of what saved your
Dude,
ass?
I didn't do anything.
Then what
I
was
just
it?
let go. And the teacher showed up and it was in my life and he said, go do this. And I just said, I'm an idiot. I'm just going to do what this dude says to do.
Right.
And I went and I did it for, a while. And then that group kind of disbanded and broke up. I still see that guy. He's
Yep.
not my sponsor anymore, but I still see him every single solitary week. He's just texted me.
Said you're doing a great job tonight. Keep up the good work.
And and then I stumbled into the place where Sam had mentioned, over
Payne?
1099 Payne Avenue. And those are my people. And it took me a really long time to get to come around there because I got there through some circumstance. I mean, like I said, we go through different surrenders. We go through different surrenders in our life, right? And my 7-year surrender was a tough one. I'd had 3 really, really, really close friends die. My stepdad had cancer, and so I was there for my family, and I'd missed out on a lot of AA. And damn it, whatever, who cares?
Oh,
And,
you said, see,
yeah,
it was so
it
no
don't
common.
matter.
But
And
this is
and I'm dying inside, and I don't know.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And so I go to Payne Avenue. I wasn't even there, but to talk to this other dude about something completely different, and it wasn't AA. And some guy that I had walked up to and started a conversation with years before that came up to me and said, "Hey, are you so-and-so?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Look, man, we got this thing going on Saturday mornings. It's a men's group. Come and check it out." And I looked at him and he goes, "We could really use your help." And I told him I got this other thing going on Saturday mornings. And this dude looked at me like I was too dumb to breathe oxygen.
Was it
You know what I
fun?
mean? Yeah. He looked at me like I was too dumb to breathe oxygen. And, and I'm like, oh, and I went home and, it really, really bugged me that I had said those things. You know what I mean? That I said no to an alcoholic. And,
you said no because you were going to another meeting.
it was something completely different. It was
Okay,
more of a Bible study kind
Okay.
of a thing.
All right.
And I had this little spiel that I did at this, and I don't know, and I just was like, and it just bothered me. And I called my sponsor, who's my sponsor now. He lives in Mississippi, and And I ran this by him, and he said, Terry, if you have to call me, you already know the answer to the question. Don't do AA. You know what I mean? And I haven't stopped.
Oh, this was at that kind of turning point.
It was
too.
at that turning
Okay.
point. You know, I mean, dude, I got a disease just like everybody else,
Right.
and my disease shows up. It comes, you know, one of my favorite people says that when I get sober, my disease goes underground and comes up in different areas of my life.
Would you call those character defects in a way? or
Yeah,
no?
I mean, you know, they can be shopping sprees, you know, whatever. They
Right.
just show up, and you know, anything that'll release an endorphin, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he you know, I truly believe that God put that man in that place at that moment, and I truly believe that that he saved my life that day.
So you ended up switching over to take that other being involved with the other deal. You ended up being part of what he.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about it is like the last little thing that I did, I'm not going nowhere. I'm going to do what God wants me to do, this, that, and the other thing. And a week later, I'm calling him saying, hey, man, yeah,
I'm in.
this is my last Saturday. I'm going to go do this with these guys. And I went and did this with these guys, and, you know.
2.5 years in, you feel like you're dying. Some guy says something. What changed? What brings you from feeling like dying to not to?
Well, I did.
You know, like
our same friend will talk about, like, you go to jail, what do they tell you to do? You go to treatment, what do they tell you to do? You go to outpatient, what do they tell you to do? You go to, you know, and like anywhere, right? What do they tell you to do? Get a sponsor and work the steps. What's the last thing we do?
Right.
Get a sponsor, you know, and so I had actually asked somebody, like,
well, you hadn't had a sponsor by this time.
No.
Like 2.5 years.
No.
Okay. We kind of.
well, I had a couple. I mean, how do you sponsor if you don't? How do you sponsor out of the book if you've never been sponsored out of the book?
Yeah, you're drawing a map
It's a
to
blind
somebody.
leading the
Yeah,
blind,
yeah.
you know. So I had been
Yeah.
led blindly a little bit, but I had actually asked somebody, like, I need somebody that's gonna, like, not pat me on the butt, you
Right.
know, like, I knew that. And so, you know, lucky for my sponsor, I don't know what it says about her, but they are like, we got someone for you. And so, you know, that was the first time, you know, that I never knew that none of this had anything. I never knew that liquor was but a symptom. I never knew that it said that in the book. I never said that elimination of drinking was but a beginning. I really thought, like, the end all be all was taking the drugs and alcohol out of my life. I really did believe that. And I think I was in meetings where I was led to believe that. And it kind of goes back to that thing about, like, the newcomers, you know, and I think, you know, I think the message is watered down. And I think that a lot of us are just, I'm like, I listened to a guy that says, next time you're in your meeting, I want you to close your eyes and just listen and tell me if you really think you're at an AA meeting, because is what you're hearing actually coming out of the book, you
Right.
know? And so I think,
That's good.
I think that, like, for it just, it goes back to what I said, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know. And so how confusing is it for the newcomer to sit in one of these groups and it's like, well, you can't sponsor till you're a year sober. Well, you can sponsor right away, or, you know, don't date for the first year, you know, and then it's like, well, my book never said, and it's all these, like, conflicting arguments, right? And so, I mean, I think I had asked, I needed a sponsor. I approached my sponsor, which honestly is, like, one of the most terrifying things that I've ever done. Like, to, like, go up to somebody as somebody who's, like, you know, I'm the kind of person that's, like, obviously struggling to do something, and someone's like, let me help you. And I'm like, I got it. You know, like, I've been like that my whole life, you know? And so to, like, willingly, and honestly, it was kind of like begrudgingly, like, I was miserable enough that I was willing to ask, but I didn't really want to, you know what I mean? And I had asked her, and she was like, you know what, I'm going out of town. but she was sponsored in a way where she never says no. It doesn't matter how many people she's working with. She never says no because she believes, God will take care of it, right? She said most people don't want to do the work anyway, so you just say yes and let God handle the rest, and so she said yes. She gave me one day at one time that she could meet with me on the phone because she's out of town, but she's willing to put me in a part of her schedule that she can clear up to meet with me. And I think it was honestly the first time that I did it. I showed up. I did what she had suggested. I read what she told me to read, and I showed up at the time she told me to call. And I think I actually I was on my way home from the cities, and I had to pull into a rest stop because I wasn't home yet, and I had to call her. And I tried to do the I went like, oh, maybe she can wait a little bit, or maybe I can wait, and I was like, I gotta call her,
right?
And I did, and I think. It's funny because 2.5 years sober and not a single soul has asked me to sponsor them. And I start working the steps and immediately I'll never forget the first girl that came up to me and said, do you sponsor? And I said, kinda. Yeah. I had no idea. I'm like, what is it? I don't know what I'm doing here. Right. And so I just think it goes to what does it say? You cannot transmit something you don't have. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything for, I could teach you how to still cheat your job sober, still cuss out your friends sober, still, this is how I'm showing up. I'm doing whatever I want and I'm sober. It was literally the epitome of I'm still going out. I'm still going out with my friends. I'm living vicariously through my friends, and so it's just, I was the same exact person. I just wasn't drinking anymore.
They got a dry drunk or
100, a fire hazard. If you got too close to me with a match, I would have set on fire. I mean, literally.
At what point, once you had your sponsor, did the change start taking on for you? Was it instantly once you knew, deep down, once you're all right, I'm going to do this with her? What was it for you? When did that change come where you just didn't feel miserable anymore?
I really honestly think it came at the third step. I sat across.
To give her, or go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No,
tell them so they know.
I don't have it on the wall. We decided
why all of a sudden we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him.
Yeah, I think that's a daily step, but okay.
Yeah, no. But it was the first
people. But go ahead.
It was the first time. You know what it was is that I was sitting across the couch from her, right? And we start reading about the actor. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time, and she put my name in it. Oh, so she would go
that's good.
Sam may be sometimes kind, patient, generous. On the other hand, Sam may be mean, egotistical, self-centered. And she keeps saying Sam. And she's talking about this idea that I'm running the show, right? If only Sam's arrangements could stay put, I would be happy. And she really broke down what it means to wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this life if only I managed well. And she was like, how is rest spelled? And I'm like, and I hate when they do that. I'm like, is it a trick? But do you think I'm dumb? And I'm like, well, and she's like, do you know what that means though? To wrestle? The physical exertion, the exhaustion that comes with wrestling. And I really just started to see that, for me, it was always I would be happier. Oh, it must be nice to make $100,000. I'd be happy too. It must be nice to have that house. I'd be happy too. It must be nice to have that family, that job, that car, that whatever, I'd be happy. And if only I could get to where I wanted to be, I'd be happy, right? And I really just started to see what a lie that was when she started reading this to me. And I really think that that's when I knew things were going to change.
Most people try to live on self-propulsion. Each person is like Sam, who wants to run the whole show.
Yeah.
And that's how she did it.
That's exactly how she did it.
I like that.
And
And
that's what I do with my sponsees now, and it always adds that extra zing to it.
And one thing I think we got to talk about that sentence that you just wrote. It's just they're not
Profession.
talking about us.
Right.
They're talking
most
about
people.
most people in this
in
world.
the world, not just recovery
Right.
people.
And then there's us,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Level 2500.
Extreme example of self-will run riot. And we're colliding with just everybody because there's always going to be somebody who has a nicer car.
Yep.
There's always
Like
somebody
she said, yeah.
who's going to have a better wife. There's always, or, you know what I mean?
Not hard if it's me.
I'm going to covet. I'm always going to covet what I have is never going to be good.
Right.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
And I think, what's so cool too is like, this is like another myth you hear that it's like, you just need to change everything, and it's like, I have sober friends that are tuned into this podcast that I drank with 7-8 years ago, and so if I would have changed everything, I wouldn't have them, right?
Right.
And so they
Yeah.
always wanted me to get sober, but what's neat is that if I were to say, like if I could hand them the microphone, I was the most, they'd be like, you should be an attorney because I will manipulate you into doing what I want you to do. And then it goes back to being the actor. I knew how to get what I wanted from people. I knew what to say. I knew what, and it's like, I've never seen any, like I have a lot of friends who are like quote unquote normies, and I've never seen them behave that way. Like they just don't, like I knew how to work them over. I did.
And
like
you didn't need to be drunk to be doing this.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely not. I think, I usually share this when I like share my story, but as a young child, I grew up at the bowling alley. My parents both bowled, and so I'd go ask my dad, can I bowl? And he would say, I don't care, but you have to ask your mom first. So I'd go to my mom and I'd say, hey mom, dad said I could bowl if you say yes. I'm backing her into the corner. She's the bad guy. Now she's the bad person if she says no.
You started this at what age? Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
8 years old, and so I just use that as the perfect example of like, this happened long before I ever took that first drink, like if I wanted something, I was going to get it.
We're all pretty good at doing stuff like that. I think, well, a lot, I understand what you're saying, and you are telling your story, so you get to say these things.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're doing here. All right, I've had a few things come in. For you, did you have everyone's sprung on this? Any type of spiritual awakening or burning bush moment, or do you have any story you can tell about that with your own experience?
Yeah, I just laugh when Terry says it because it is like, I think everybody. And not everybody, I shouldn't say that. I think sometimes people get so infatuated with the burning bush experience.
They do.
And I just like, it's not, I can name a couple like right off a hand. When you ask me, I think of this one specific, okay, so I want to preface with like, I didn't grow up in church, like I had no conception of God. I didn't know. The only thing I knew is like we didn't eat meat on Fridays during Lent. And I was like, this seems a little insufficient. This is kind of weird. I'm not really sure why we do this. And so, mind you, I'm in treatment and I'm like praying out loud to like something. I don't even know that I really believe. I'm like, and so I remember I'm sitting on this like bench in this like gazebo thing alone. Everybody's in for dinner, and I'm so self-righteous, and I'm like, God, like I want to leave treatment, right? And I'm like, God, if you want me to stay here, show me a sign, and I'm like, demand, like there I go again,
conning God,
literally. And I'm almost positive that I was like a car alarm or the leaves blowing or like, just give me something, and within, I got done saying the prayer and these guys come up behind me and they're like, boo. And it was like, it was a white light experience. You could say that my experience when I got to treatment and I got out of the car and, I always say this too, like when you're miserable and like happy people piss you off.
Oh,
You know, like there was like a cheery voice when I got out of the car that was like, "Hi, I'm Emily," and I'm, you know, already like, I hate her, you know, like I just, cause I'm so miserable, you know, and I get out of the car and it's a girl that I had worked with years before. And it was like that experience, like in the book where like Bill sees Abby, like I didn't know she was sober. Like last I knew she was getting high, you know, and here she is. She said, "I saw your name on the intake list and I figured I should stay and do your intake."
oh, she worked there.
She worked there,
Oh,
you know, and so it was kind of that same sense that Terry had where like I was going to treatment, kicking and screaming. And now all of a sudden I got that like feeling like I was going to be okay. Right. But my first one I told proves the point that that experience didn't do anything, because a week later I'm starting to feel a little better and I'm demanding that God show me why I should stay in treatment, you know? And so I don't think that it's my, you know, we'll go back to what Terry said about there's people that don't belong here. You know, if that's what got you sober and kept you sober, then congratulations. But I think that what I read about myself in the book that I read is very clear about like that won't keep me sober. Not somebody of my type, you know. And so I think if the bubble baths and the therapy and all of that,
needles in your ear while you're doing what again?
Right.
What?
You had needles in your ear
Well,
while
I was
doing
listening to whales make noise.
right. And if that's what keeps you sober,
more
that's
power.
amazing
Yeah.
for you. But leave that stuff, like don't share about that in
In a
the
meeting that
meetings.
it's not about that.
Right, exactly. You know, and so I think I really have had the educational variety. Like it's ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding force of our lives, are suddenly cast to one side, and a brand new group or set of ideas and takes over. What, you know, like I had, like my whole life I've gone toe to toe with my mom, right? Like just
Challenging and
it's all, you know, my dad used to say, you both think that you always have to have the last word.
oh.
You know, that's how we would be,
Poor guy.
you
I
know,
know,
and
right?
I know, gosh, seriously, he's literally a saint. But this happened to me, like this was another epiphany I had like maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. My mom was mad about something and she's in the kitchen, she's slamming cabinet doors, right? And I like can feel myself getting like, and my dad's like, "I'm gonna go to this." Yeah, I'm ready. You know, I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. And my dad goes, "I'm gonna go to the store." And I said, "Okay, I'll come with." And I left. And I didn't have to open my mouth. I shut up. Yeah. I didn't have to say something. I didn't have to point out that I thought she was wrong. I didn't have, you know, it's just the way that I think about things has changed, you know. And I had that experience literally this morning. There was a girl walking in a cute little dress and I thought to myself, you get it, little mama, you know. And that's not I'm a judger. I walk into the room and I'm instantly judging, you know. But as time has gone on, it starts to flip, right? Where like now all of a sudden I'm seeing strangers and I'm complimenting them and
meaning it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is lame, you know?
Yeah, but we share about this, and I'm kind of beating a dead horse on the show with this, but the questions don't stop when it comes to stuff like this is timelines. You said 6 months ago this happened, like, and I related to promises. Like the promises are written, and the step 9 promises, they make some promises.
Ooh.
But for me, I always share about that scenario like that when I told a gentleman I was happy for him, and I walked away from that situation realizing I was really happy for him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of got all emotional over like, fuck, like I'm really happy for him.
Yeah.
Whether, all right, I wasn't selfish for first time in my life, but he told me something that was going on in his life. I'm like, dude, I'm happy for you, man. And I meant it. and it like tripped something. Like that was the first time I really think I've ever meant that towards someone else. And that was like a year and a half into recovery. But like for you, knowing that you said 6 months ago this happened with your mom, has it been just sporadic throughout, or like was there a change where you were able to start noticing this stuff and making the change? Or is it still a work in progress?
I think it's both. I don't think you ever really stop having. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm always having, you know, I have a friend, Bruce, who after I had my baby, I have a 2.5-year-old son.
Congrats.
And thank you. And that was a hard, you know, like it's like the joy of bringing human life into this world. But then when you start to get like hormones and emotions and like you're an alcoholic who's not getting a lot of sleep, not getting to a lot of meetings, not doing a lot of service work, you know, I remember just, I was like, I feel useless, you know, and he really like put my sobriety on a whole nother, you know, he said, Sam, it doesn't always have to be helping another alcoholic. You can ask the cashier how their day is. You can help the elderly woman at the grocery store. You can, you know, like look at how you can contribute to your household, to your family, to your friends, and that really put me on a whole nother playing field. And you know what's crazy is I was crying in the car after I had my son. We were on our way to Walmart, you know, and I was talking to God, and I'm like, I just don't feel like I'm being useful. And this is that burning bush moment that people love, is like I get into Walmart and this woman just like stops me in the makeup aisle and she's like, can I ask you a question? And she starts asking me for help with makeup. Like, which one do you think would look better? And we start talking about makeup and we start, you know, and it's like, I got exactly what I prayed for, right? Like an opportunity for even 2 minutes to get out of myself. And so I think for me, like they just continue to keep happening. And I think the more I do the work and the less I get rid of my own junk, like the more I'm constantly able to see it. And I think the biggest one I've had is like, I can do what I don't feel like doing. You know, like when I was like, I don't feel like going to the meeting, I go to the meeting. When I don't feel like meeting with my sponsees, I meet with my sponsees. When I don't feel like going to work, I actually show up and clock in rather than call in and make up a lie or quit my job or, you know, like that was honestly probably my biggest spiritual experience, was like this idea that I don't have to live in my feelings anymore, which I've given a lot of importance to my whole life. And I think that's a human experience.
I agree. Come on.
I quit AA all the time.
Right.
Explain though. Explain.
I do. I mean, it's just, you know, I made a deal with God that if he keeps me sober, I'll do his work and I'll help his kids. And right. You know what I mean? Basically in a nutshell.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, he's really put that, that, I mean, he's living up to his part of the bargain.
He's putting him in front of you?
Right. He's putting him in front of me. And, you know, it's not just like, you know, like Sam was saying, it's not just like alcoholics. Like the responsibility statement is kind of something that I live by. Right.
When I am
anyone anywhere reaches out for help. Right. Anyone anywhere reaches out for help.
That's a good point.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
I need.
It doesn't say just the members of this fellowship.
You know, when I was going through my 7-year blah blah, we had this horrific winter. You remember that February where it just snowed like 10 inches every other day?
Yeah.
And I remember getting in my truck and driving down Lake Street, yelling at God, put somebody in my path that I can help. And every single road that I drove down, someone was stuck. And I just kept right on going. And of course, I didn't think of it then, right? But I think of it now. You know, every time I ask, God does his job. You know what I mean? That's why I hate when people say God willing. Stop.
Right. Oh my.
Stop that.
I'll be
Explain.
sober
explain.
tomorrow, God
Yeah,
willing.
okay.
Yeah, I'll stay sober, God willing. God's willing. God's willing. It's my willingness that's in
That's
question.
getting in the way.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know. You know, I don't do this thing perfectly. That's why I
No.
have a 10th step, right? That's why I you know, like I said, man, I still bounce off people. You can't take a 5-year-old kid who plotted Bert and Ernie's death because they didn't believe in Snuffleupagus, put 30 years of drugs and alcohol into that system and have me coming out smelling like a rose, bro. You know what I mean? Like, this program keeps me so on the beam when I'm willing to do the discipline that it asks me to do. You understand?
Is that
what
where
I'm
the
saying?
part comes in where you're like, I'm always quitting AA?
You know, I'm always, it's tough.
I mean, I know that's
It's
like
tough.
a funny statement,
you know, because I get selfish,
but,
right?
right. No, come on.
Dude, on Saturdays, my favorite thing in the world is to lay on my couch and watch Ghost Hunters. I love that show. You know what I mean? Like, but
That checks
But
out.
I'll be sitting
She
at
said
work.
that checks
I'll
out.
be sitting at work and this guy will say, "Man, it's creepy in here." I'm like, "That's," and I got this thing downloaded on my phone, this spirit box, and I'm showing, you know what? And I'm into that kind of stuff. But you know what? When my
The
phone
spirit's
rings,
in here, baby.
when my phone rings and I look at it and it's an alcoholic,
Ugh.
and it's like, oh man,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we're just getting ready for the body footage here, man. You know, and I gotta turn that shit down
Yup.
because I'm deaf, and I'll talk to them on the phone, and you know, whether they're just a guy calling to check in, or you know, someone has a problem, or someone, you know, needs to talk about something. It's not that I'm not grateful, you know,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you what, when I was going through that 7-year thing, my phone never rang.
Right.
Mm.
I think that's a big point you're making too.
And
Really
it was miserable.
Right.
So I answer my, you know, I love, you know, sometimes I don't want to drive to go to this meeting or go to that meeting or go to this meeting or go to that meeting. But I had an experience, and it was a kind of a religious experience. And when Jesus was in the garden, right before he got turned over to the Roman soldiers,
Mhm.
and this is, I'm just using the carpenter as an example
Come
because
on.
this is where I got this. He's like, you know, and of course I'm ad-libbing here. He's like, God, if there's any other way that we can do this,
Right.
I'm willing, but I really, you know, so he's like, I don't really want to do this, but I'll do it. Right. And then he was turned over to the Roman soldiers, blah, blah, blah. We all know what happened
Right.
after that. And I'm going to piss and moan about going and picking up a newcomer for an AA meeting.
Come on now.
I get what you're saying. I do, but to be in the position I'm in, I got to also be like, I mean, that's pretty, not bottom of the barrel, but like, and I'm not saying you're comparing yourself to Jesus.
No,
Oh,
no,
God.
God,
No,
no.
I know. I'm remember what I'm doing here.
I'm more of a Judas kind of guy. No.
No, you're
I'm
not.
more of a Thomas.
But you're using that experience to kind of not lighten your own load, but perspective, would we say? Or,
Yeah, right. Because I mean, it's like, you know, look what he did for me.
no, I get it. I get it. But
Right.
I'm trying
And
to.
so getting
dumb it
up,
down.
getting off
Not
my
dumb it down.
couch
I
and
didn't
going
mean
to
that.
help a newcomer. you
I
know
think
what
it just
mean?
takes more practice for us.
I mean,
You know, like I have a best, we've been friends since 2nd grade, right?
You and Terry?
No.
Oh,
Yes,
you guys are
yeah.
I was real
Yeah.
dumb.
He was
Real
all
dumb.
those drinking and drugs
was
held him
all
back
the way back.
pretty long.
Okay, so you had this since 2nd grade.
I bet
I'm a
this friend.
dork.
Oh my god.
Dork.
Oh
Second,
my
I'm like,
god.
you guys were in elementary together? Like, I'm not saying you're old. I'm not trying to say you're young, but all right.
Whoa.
I'm not trying to say you're young and you're old. I don't
We have
know.
the same maturity level for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so this buddy from 2nd grade.
So I have this best friend since 2nd grade, right? And so I think the other so I cut like gluten out of my diet like 6 months ago, right? And so
Could
everybody
you tell, sorry, I'm interrupting. What was the difference for you?
I lost like 10 pounds.
And like, did you feel
I
clean?
feel
Like,
I do. Back in December when it was Christmas and I was eating whatever I wanted, my body hurt.
and like, were you more
Like it
tired,
literally like
groggy,
ached. Like, yeah, I just don't feel as good as when I'm not.
Did doctors say, "Oh, you have a gluten allergy," or were you just like, "I'm cutting gluten"?
I saw a naturopath and he had recommended to cut gluten because it's sprayed with so much stuff. And
I mean,
we'll get.
I know.
If
Sorry,
you
I'm
wanna-
going down.
If you want to get weird with stuff, we'll get weird in that. That's a whole nother podcast because I'm like all about glass Tupperware, and I mean we can go
I
down.
know you should.
You
want
to talk about ghost hunters and
Yeah, but all right,
microplastics. This is your
you
crew.
never microwave with plastic. I know that. Like, never microwave some shit in a plastic bowl. Well, sometimes
Right,
you have
exactly.
to.
That's like
I get. All right, listen. All right, left turn.
okay.
So your buddy from 2nd grade,
Yeah,
and you
so
went
my-
gluten free.
So my best friend, right? I show up to this
really did.
birthday party and they get pizza. And I'm like thinking like thinking to myself, of course, but I'm like, oh damn, I'm not gonna get to eat today, right? Like it's not like I'll have to eat when I get home. And I walk through the door and she was like, hey, I got you 2 gluten-free pizzas. The small boxes are yours. And I think it like kind of ties back into this idea, right? Of like, to some people, this stuff just comes naturally. She didn't have to try really, really, really hard to fit her life to be of service to me. She literally just thought when she was ordering the pizzas, oh, my best friend is gluten-free and I'll get her a gluten-free pizza. You know, like it's natural to her. Her and another alcoholic were at the zoo together and she like sees this mom and her kid like taking pictures and she stops to say, do you want me to take a picture of you guys together?
It's very thoughtful.
I don't think like that.
No.
I didn't even see this chick with her kid, right? Like and if I did, it was probably like, you're in my way. Can you move over? You know what I like? And so I think it's like this idea that like I quit AA. It's like, I naturally kind of like fall back into like shutting the sunlight of the spirit out, right? Like it's not, I remember like I used to tell my sponsor, like, I still think about drinking. And she's like, yeah, you're an alcoholic.
Right.
You know, like it's like that's, and so I think it's kind of like I'm an alcoholic that has an alcoholic mind, right? And so it's like trying to fit myself, what does it say? Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends on our constant thought of others and how we may meet their needs. Like, here's the thing, like I've never done anything constant in my life other than like bitch and complain. You know, like it's like I'm not a constant person. And so I think that's like that's like the next level stuff, right? Like hopefully in a few decades I'll be closer to that constant thought of others. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't come natural to a lot of us, I don't think.
Someone said it to me like this a while ago when I was beating myself up, I don't know, 3 years in, about having a thought of use. And like, this shit, like, I look at all this work, I'm already done with my step, blah, 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 blah. Look where I'm at. And he had to dumb it down for me. He said, how long were you getting high? Said it like not coming at me on some knowledge shit. How long did you get high for? I was like, you shit, like 15 years. How long were you drinking and like you smoking weed? Well, like 20, 25. He said, in 3 years, you thought all that was going to change? Like, dumb enough for me. Like, okay, I made a normal, something over 25 years I had made into a normal for myself, being selfish and wanting just mood altering. In 3 years, like, you basically give yourself a break. It's going to take a little longer than that. So this is a part where we kind of got away from doing this. I'm going to read something to you guys, and
okay.
I want to know what is most important in this, or not important. What applies to you the most or has affected you the most? I don't know how I'm wording this.
Okay.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our recovery, our development,
okay,
we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experiences can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. The fear of people and economic insecurities will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. What part of that sticks out the most for you, Terry?
To stop reading it before meetings.
Yeah. I think that reading it before meeting gives
That's
people
what I
a false
literally-
hope that
So when you hear the
these things are
promises, that's what you think of?
when I hear the promises, because we read them before every meeting. Why?
I'm trying to think of the meetings. You're right. There's a couple I go to where you're right. They do read them before.
Yeah.
But I go to some where they read them at the end.
Well,
Well,
doesn't matter.
But then I go, I know, I'm just thinking about
You
it.
know,
But
but
no,
it's
I
like-
see what
it's
you're
like-
saying. You read it at the beginning, I'm like,
Every single meeting you go to is they read how it works, right? Watch the people in the meeting when they're reading how it works. They're looking on their phones, they're dicking around, talking to the person next to them. How it works is one of the most genius things that has been written in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's really genius. It really just
touches
pretty
on it.
much
Yeah, go ahead.
throws everything. So I mean, I think we got some readings out of the big book, right? But then you hear someone, oh, I'm on my first step, and the promises are already coming true. There's a prayer, principle, and a promise for every single step we do. The unfortunate part about it is that there's an action.
unfortunate.
Right? We can't just sit on our ass and expect to catch this like COVID. We have to get
Right.
up off it and we have to do something, or the promises aren't going to come true. These are the 9-step promises. Halfway through,
9.
isn't that what I said?
Yep.
Oh, halfway.
We're just clarifying.
Okay.
In case
Yes.
anybody didn't hear.
9. And
That's it. I got to dumb it down sometimes.
well, and you don't have to dumb it down. I think that's where I think the fellowship is lacking.
Right.
Right? You get a new person that comes in. Oh, really? Promises come true. Yeah.
I know.
You
that
know
was
what I
me.
mean? And it's not their fault, right? But
You're right. It's not their fault.
The most important
like 2.5
thing about
years.
the 9th step is the first 8.
Right.
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 You have to do the first 8
Right.
to get to 9.
Well-
Because I mean, how many people come out of treatment, 30 days sober, running around trying to put out forest fires?
And
I'm
teach
so
people.
sorry. And I'm not doing it because I'm honestly trying to be a better person. I'm doing it because I just want to, ease some of the tension between you and me.
All right. So now I'm going to sound like some type of ass by saying this. It's only 9-step promise. It's only 9-step promises. So, yeah, I know there's promises all along the way.
But I mean, if I had to pick
There we go.
a part of the promises, I don't even really know them. I would have to say,
You want to read it?
yeah, we read it.
I got it.
Yeah.
Here, let me
He
see.
sounds about. Oh,
She's
no,
good.
go
Look
ahead
at
and
her.
read it.
She's good.
And let me while you're looking at him.
Um,
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll just say we will comprehend serenity and know peace. Like, I thought that these were the promises you got getting sober because they were read. Like, these are
Right.
the promises.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, so this is what I get for being sober. I didn't comprehend serenity or peace for 2.5
Right.
years, right? Like, I woke up with anxiety, fear, worry, panic almost every day, and so I think, yeah, we always laugh that it's like, take that out of the beginning because it's
No, I
misleading,
get,
like,
you're right. I get what you're saying.
here's what you'll get if you get sober. No.
But for the sake of you guys both being past 9th step
Okay.
and me reading this,
yeah.
I would have to say the
Indulge
greatest
me.
promise in this book is we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for
Right.
ourselves.
when did that occur for you? Do you recall when that?
I
epiphany
started,
happened?
I think of the spiritual experience when it started happening as I started reflecting upon my life and I started thinking, okay, self-will really got me out of that one. And I look back and I did did an inventory and I realized just how mentally challenged that I'm going to say that like that. And I look back at these times and I realized that God was getting me through those times because I was completely incapable of doing it. Right. And there's still times that God is, you know, like we talk about, like when Ben showed up, you know, God was doing for me what I could not do for myself.
Okay.
You know, when I have a newcomer come up and say, hey, you know, I come off sometimes a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a newcomer has to really be like, all right,
you're right.
You know what I mean? But so when that newcomer is coming up and saying, hey, will you take me through the book? Or even if they come up and say, hey, you know, I have, you know, like God is doing for me what I cannot do for myself. God is like, he's what this is about, right? I'm here to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's what it says before we start the 9th step, right? Before I do the 9th step, you know?
Yeah.
So that would probably, I mean, I think that's probably my favorite. I mean, but it says that, you know, from pretty much the beginning of the book, is that God is doing for us what we cannot do.
Now
for
you're
ourselves.
playing along. Now you get it.
Right.
You're playing along here. But seriously, I didn't think about the side of what you guys brought up. Like, you're right. I've heard those promises since the day I walked in.
Yeah.
And not ever like thinking, wait a sec, I'm not even near a 9th step yet. You know,
I've had people come up with treatment handouts where it says step 1, and then it would say a promise. Step 2, and then it would say another promise. Step 3, and then it would say another promise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I believed that.
Right.
Until
I
had a sponsor who sat down with me and told me that that's this 9th step stuff, dude.
I always heard. Now I'm trying to think back. Because this is the joys of hearing other people share. Is like what you guys brought up about, you know, why we reading these at the beginning or I recall looking back thinking that financial piece, like, like I was always excited, like that's gonna happen. Like I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like that was part of my psyche to think about this stuff, looking forward to it.
Right.
Like I really was. I don't know. He's on it. I got my people taking care of it.
Oh, what?
You can take them off if you want.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna pick up this hat.
Oh, I thought she was going to grab a water. I was like, I got people for that. Yeah, I got you covered.
Just ready
Got you
myself to
covered
be a
like a
maximum
brother.
service.
Full circle.
And I allowed it.
And you allowed
Right. No, you didn't. You actually
I
did
know
go.
you did, didn't you?
He's like,
I tried to, yeah. No, you know, I mean, this is, I don't know. This is so life and death, right? This is so life and death, dude. You know, I don't think one.
I think that's another aspect that we water down.
Right.
At least you made it back.
Right. Well,
What about when you don't?
You know, if you leave, liquor will bring you back.
Right. It doesn't. It doesn't always. You know, like that.
No. I just was in a meeting. They were talking about that. Just the same exact word for word what you just said.
Yeah. You know. So no. And you know.
Well, and I think that's where, you know, like I listen to like a guy.
You bring up the competition.
I listened to a couple guys, Chris and Myers,
Yeah.
and they talk about things like that. You know, like the person in the room that's, you know, keeps relapsing, and it's like, well, you know, keep coming back. You know, we're happy we're happy you made it. And he talks about that. Why is nobody sitting down with this guy and asking him what it is? Like, do you want to have a spiritual experience as the result of 12 steps
Right.
and you do not have to drink again? You don't. You know, why are we not sitting down with people and saying, what's going on here? Why can't you stay sober? What are we missing here? You know, and I think, like you said, thank God for other people's experience, because it's constant. Honestly, though, I've learned so much just from listening to like those two talk, you know, where it's like, am I treating the meetings like a social club? That was a big epiphany for me, as I realized that when I showed up to my meetings, that I was sitting there with my group of friends, talking, catching up. How was your week? Oh my God, I miss you so much. Oh, we should get the kids together. Ooh. And the person who was terrified who has never came to this meeting before is sitting in the corner alone. And so that when I heard them talk about that, you know, because he talked about like he went to speak at a meeting where they were out smoking and no one talked to him. No one said a word to him. He was like, "Where's the door?" And some guy pointed, and he sat at the table alone until his friends came and joined him. He talked and he left. He said the next meeting he went to, he was greeted in the parking lot by a slew of people. I mean, he said it was over. "Hi, you must be Chris. Nice to meet you." You know, when I started to look at like, how am I showing up at my home group? How am I showing up at these meetings that I'm consistently going to? Because everything, sorry,
I
that's
wasn't
me.
sure what the heck.
Everything, like my ego hates, like, you know what goes through my mind? I'll like show up to a meeting, especially, and I think I loved it so much because I knew that it was true. I knew it was true. My jaw was almost on the floor because I was like, oh my God, these meetings are my social group. I have for years ignored the newcomers because I would always talk to them. I would always approach them after the meeting, right? But like, how are they supposed to know where the coffee is? How are they supposed to know where the bathroom is? How are they supposed to know where the meeting schedule is? It's my job to be doing that for the people who are new, right? Because it does make a difference. And I think that was like a good wake up call for me. And now I'm like, got my sponsees and they're like, "Oh, have you seen her before?" No? Okay, we'll go say hi.
But you know, here, this is going to go to the point of you not comparing, but talking about your friend. Like, it's natural for her. It's not work for her to be like, "Oh, let me take the picture for you," or, "Oh, I got you gluten-free pizza." So, like, without someone pointing it out to you, until someone said, "Are you treating this meeting like a social club?" Like, and I don't know what point I'm going to. Like, wait, don't beat yourself up over stuff you don't know.
Right.
I went to a meeting for my first year recovery, and I felt they all drove Lamborghinis and Porsches, and they never accepted the dirty white boy from the north side. And I'm like, so at month 6, like, I started building the resentment. Like, they're not even going to recognize my 1 year when it happens. For 6 months, I'm showing up I'm going to prove that these guys are assholes and they're not accepting me. And it went just as I expected it would. And I'm setting chairs up, doing everything. No one's like including me, making me part of. So I left that meeting after my 1 year and talked shit about it for the next 2. And then I told my sponsor, he asked me, he's like, "Why aren't you going over to T5 no more?" I'm like, "Man, them assholes, man, they never accepted me, man, didn't make me feel welcome." It's like, "What'd you do for the guy walking in who felt like you?"
Oh, yeah.
He's like, "You think you should maybe go back and help the next guy walking in who's walking out like you did?" I went back for the next 3 years.
That's how important it is to have that guide in your life.
Yeah,
because we don't see it.
Right.
And that's why I don't know if the point I brought up was like, don't beat yourself up, or people listening, like, what we don't know, we don't know. And you went 2.5 years.
And I think that's what I'm trying to say too, is like, I'm saying, like, thank God for the people that we get. Thank God that there is like multiple ways, like, I think to some degree we have water, like we've been talking, it's gotten watered down because of so many other many outside things that you can do that. I mean, and that was kind of like my experience too, where like when I got out of treatment for 30 days, I felt better. I didn't have the heat. Like, I didn't feel that need, that rush, that willingness to do this work, and so I think it's like where I was kind of going with that, like the learning from it kind of thing, is that like, thank God that there is people who can get on, podcasts, who can go speak at places, who do sponsor, who do share in big book meetings about their experience, because those are things that I would have never even thought about it. I would have never thought about the kind of difference that warm welcome can make to somebody that's terrified. And especially when it's like, is this your first meeting ever?
Yeah.
that can set the tone for
The rest of
I'm letting you know the first meeting I ever went to somewhere was the reason that I never went to another AA meeting for probably 6 months. You know, and
Yeah.
so I just think, thank God that we have people who like are truly dedicated, you know, and like I met Terry at Eastside, you know, and like when he started talking about his experience, I just was instantly like, this is a guy that I want.
Yep.
Like, I want to know where he goes to meetings. I want to know more, right? Because I feel like it's more rare that you're going to hear people talk about things that might hurt some people's feelings, you know, and I
No, yeah,
think
that's not common.
my sponsor will always say that I care more about your life than I do your feelings.
Well,
You
that's
know, and
like
I
Dave
think-
always says it. He's like, I prefer to have you pissed off at me than go to your funeral.
Right.
Right.
I'll step on your toes rather than step on your grave.
Yeah. And that's a hard hitter, but it's thank you. That's all I can say. When I hear that now, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
You gave a shit. Like before, I didn't have, like you said, no one was calling for 7 years. I didn't have no one giving a shit if I was going to OD in the, you know what I'm saying? But
I think that's why the fellowship is so. I like talk to my sponsees a lot about like, this isn't you come here and you go live your life. This is your life.
Yeah.
So who are you talking to on a weekly basis? What kind of activities are you doing? You know, it's so funny because like my whole family like drinks. No one in my family sober.
Mhm.
You know, and I don't know that I'm not qualified to like say whether or
They're
not
alcoholic,
anybody's
right.
alcoholic. I know that they can keep a job and they can they seem to be able to stop when they want to.
Mhm.
You know, to some degree, some of them. And I think I just can't help but laugh. You know, my parents have golfed in like the Friends in Recovery golf tournament with people who are sober.
Mhm.
You know, like they came up to fellowship after the meeting when I got my medallion last year. This weekend is like the perfect example. My cousin's coming up and she's a normie and we're doing like a huge game night with a bunch of us that are sober.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't, I just got my toes done and spent the day getting lunch with my cousin and my best friend I met in the meetings. You know, like it's
Right.
it's not,
It's your life.
it's my life.
It's your life.
And I think like I try to really, that's one part that will keep you sober, right? Like I think I hung on to I think the fellowship is a huge reason I made it those 2 years. I spent a lot of time playing cards and going out to eat and, you know, like I didn't want to do the work, but I love the fellowship.
But see, and that's where I play this not devil's advocate, but and not throwing back in your face what you guys have said, because I agree 100%. But not to have someone out here listening like, God, that seems like a mixed message, watered down. But now you're telling me that's what saved your life. But you guys keep saying how watered down and that is. You see what I'm trying to differentiate here, right? Like what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree about the fellowship, but I also feel so GD fortunate that I ended up at New Hope Alano around some hard, heavy hitters.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I mean early on. I walked into a men's meeting, my life changed. Like it's just, and then like it was that God. Like, I don't care today if it was God who brought me here or this is what brought me, you know, like I don't have to differentiate that.
When I think like my sponsor, I was like probably 8 months pregnant and I'm talking to my sponsor on the phone and I can remember it. Like I'm in the baby's nursery and I'm rocking on the rocking chair and she tells me, and I don't even know what we were talking about. I don't know where it came from. I talk about it almost every time that I'm sharing my story is she said, you're going to have that baby and you're going to look at that baby and you are going to think, I love this baby so much. I will never drink again. And she said, and I want you to know that that's a selfish thought. And she said, you're going to see that baby. You're going to think, I don't want to go to a meeting. I don't want to leave the baby. I don't want it, you know? And she said, and I want you to know that it's selfish. And I think that's what I'm talking about when it's the difference between watered down, right? Because I don't think any new mom would have, you know, no new mom would have said that to me, right? Like
Right.
that you're going to have this kid and you're going to be like, I would never drink again. I love this kid so much. And you're going to
And
want to
that's
spend all
selfish.
your time with this kid. And that's selfish, you know, and that I'm letting you know that probably did save my life, because when that kid was born, when my son came
She was right.
onto earth, and the first time I thought about, but I don't want to go tonight, I had that in me already, right? And I knew and I understood the importance of helping others, you know, and I also understood the importance of showing back up to the meetings I went to regularly fairly soon, so that in the future other women could see that it is okay to have a baby and to get back
Right.
into it, right? And so I think it wasn't like, oh, sweetie, take some time off and enjoy those newborn
You don't get maternity leave
cuddles.
from AA.
Yeah, literally.
From recovery, you just don't.
You know, and I think I was babied for a while, you know, and I don't think it was even on purpose. I think it was really just because you don't know what you don't know, you know, and I think that's where, like,
Good call. Good
we're
call,
so
Carl.
passionate about I'll look at Terry in a meeting and I can read him, you know, like I think we're so passionate about that idea of not watering it down, because we've sat in so many that are just, they're killing people. They're killing people. This
Yeah.
idea that like meeting makers make it. How they make meetings
By osmosis.
and that's what Meyer, the guy I listened to, Myers, literally has a reading. He reads like this thing that they made. Gosh, and I can't even tell you because I would totally misquote it, but it's like a pamphlet that somebody made, and it talks about that, how it's like they say that like keep coming back, like something will rub off, but the thing that's rubbing off, like it's like the myth, right? Like nothing is rubbing off.
No.
You know, and I think that's what we're talking about here, is this misinformation. Like you said, the contradictions, right? Well, don't date for a year. That's like the big one. I always I get a sponsee and it's like, well, I was told not to date for, I don't know. The book says like, ultimately we let God decide.
There you go.
You know, like I just, you know, and then you get into the controversy of that, right? Like all the like, are you recovered or recovering, or, you know, like there's so many, like all the noise that we can get into. But I think the big thing is like clean house, trust God, help others.
They
Like,
should have that in like
it's-
print
That's it. That's
Like on a
it.
banner.
at like an event. Speaking of that, no, I shouldn't roll into that.
No.
So, what kind of service positions do you do? Do you have any right now currently?
Service positions. I'm like trying to think if I have. I was the alternate GSR, and then I did go into the GSR role, and I did have to step down from that. So I think I'm commitment free at my home group. I think that's probably a problem. I do have a commitment. I bring a meeting to a woman's sober house every Monday.
That's a
though,
commitment.
So that's pretty.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm like, you can't be like sponsoring people and telling them to get a commitment at their home group, and then you don't have a commitment at your home group. But it is really cool. This is like another God conscience thing. I'm sitting in my bed, right, and I'm like feeling kind of sorry for myself. And I had this commitment at this like treatment center called Janet's Residence, and they just decided to like shut their doors. And so I used that as my excuse, right? Is like I had a commitment. I like did that for like a year. It's actually crazy. And finally it was like time to get a new one, right? And I'm like sitting in bed feeling sorry for myself, and the thought comes like I really should get a commitment, you know? And another thought comes that was like, why don't you the sober house I used to live in, the girl who manages it, I lived with her. And it just like was a thought that was like, you should message her and see if you can bring an AA meeting in. And I did. And she was like, absolutely. And so we've been bringing it like for a few months now, we've been bringing a meeting to the same sober house that I resided in like 7-8 years ago. And it's the coolest, like, it's just the coolest thing.
That's my favorite commitment is once a month I go to Fairview where I did my inpatient. Like,
yeah.
that was like of course, when I was inpatient, I heard speaker, but I'm going to do that someday. And we created an alumni group, me and about 5 other people, and we've been doing that for about 3 years. It's one of my most fulfilling things. And of course, I go on and I talk about like this. I see this as a part of service, and I always invite them. I've had so many people come from that treatment center on here, like, hey, you're the guy who talked to the whatever. Terry, do you do any service commitments?
Oh God!
I run a.
Do you guys have time for this?
You know, I really don't want to like. But yes, I do. I run a meeting, a Friday night speaker meeting.
Where at?
St. Paul at the Fellowship Club, 7 p.m. I find the speakers for the New Hope Alano
on what night?
When's that?
Saturday nights at 8 p.m.
No.
I don't. And I currently am a board member for Gopher State.
Awesome.
Let's go for state.
Gopher State is a.
Is it like it's come on here if you need some help?
I do.
There we go.
Gopher State is a big get together that we have at the Doubletree Hotel in Bloomington over Memorial Day weekend. We starts about 4:00 or noon or something on Friday, and
just show up,
and it goes until noon on Sunday, and you know,
and it's open for everyone.
it is.
It's not. You don't have to be.
What if you don't have the money to enter?
There's a special situations table that you can come to, and you can just go.
So what? This has been going on for a couple, 2-3 years.
This is the 50th anniversary, actually, the gold anniversary.
Do people stay sober that long?
There are some of the makers, some of the founders of Gopher State are still around. Absolutely,
You can recover.
Yeah,
that's
Sounds
the
cool.
rumor.
one of the coolest things is they have an archive. They have an archive room there, and if you're into anything of this stuff, there's some of the coolest stuff is in there, like some of the stuff from 2218, and like just a lot of stuff because Minnesota has some pretty deep roots in AA. Absolutely. I didn't know until my sponsor took me through there, and we spent 3 hours. He's kind of an ass. You got to read this now. Doing these commitments, the reason I bring them up, you guys both have multiple years, and we've been talking about 12-step stuff and blah blah blah. You know, you guys have been here. You know what we've been talking about. How important is doing these commitments for you, Terry?
I think it's pivotal, man. I can't think of anything that comes before being a servant to the people in Alcoholics Anonymous. I can't think of a thing that I do that is more important than that. And I think Sam was talking about that. My job, you know, I work so I can help other people.
Get the cabin.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, I got this new job. I got this new job, and this is what happens, right? Is that I get this new job, and all of a sudden I have this imaginary cabin in my head, and I have this imaginary boat in my head, and I'm spending all my time fishing for wallies on the you know, up north, and you know, then all of a sudden, you know, during meditation, God will tell me, you are such a knucklehead. You know, you should go buy a case of big books. Hand them out to people who don't have them, you know?
No, I tie this together. I'm not following. So you got a new job and now you're fantasizing about a cabin.
Yeah, I'm fantasizing about all this stuff because I have this money for himself. Right. I have this disease in my head.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I still have this. I don't sit and think about getting loaded all the time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
About 6 months ago, I had a friend who came back
Oh.
from the Dominican
Hard.
Republic, and he said that
Cold and hard.
their
Thank you.
grams of cocaine are $10, and all the women down there look like Angelina Jolie. And I didn't really think about that until I got home, and I'm saying, well, how much does it cost to fly to the Dominican Republic? You know what I mean? Because I could go, but that's why I do what I do. I got this thing, right, that I believe is always trying to separate
Yeah.
me
Okay.
from, first of all, them,
And them meaning
the people that I hang and
Yep.
run with,
your
my
fellow recovery
sponsees,
brothers and sisters.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
And then eventually it gets me alone. Right.
That goes to
And
work.
once it's got me alone, it's got me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I forgot the question.
Yeah, I know. We're always going off on tangents.
I
what
forgot the
this is
question.
about.
Like you asked me a question and I just
how important
Oh,
is
the-
service
yeah.
work, but then you're
it's I mean, you know,
Pivotal.
it's part of the triangle,
Right.
right?
Which is
service, unity, and recovery. Right? That means that the people that I run with, right, we stick together. They are the most important people in my life. Showing up at the AA meeting or whatever meeting I go to and being a part of that meeting is important.
Right.
Just as important, because I'll sit at these meetings and I won't say anything, and I'll look over and she's just like mean mugging me from across the room. Like, are you gonna say anything, dude? Like, we were talking before the meeting, and we go to this meeting. I'm not gonna say what meeting it was, and she's like, we were talking about this one guy, and God bless him, you know what I mean? But she's like, when is someone gonna tell that guy to shut the fuck up? You know what I mean? So basically, what she's doing is like, hey, Terry,
your time.
it's time for you.
Terry will.
It's time for you to stand up for this, you know, and telling people that and saying, hey, man, you know, pulling them aside and talking
Right.
to them
There's
like they're a
big-
human being. There's a huge difference. And
Instead of calling him out in the middle of a meeting.
right. And that's how I also know that I've had a spiritual experience too, is because, you know, you don't do that anymore. But, you know, at the end of the day, man, I'm a servant.
Mm.
That's my job. Right. I spent a long time. I had some sobriety before this, and I always thought that I needed to be somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm. What is
Right.
that? There's like it's
Ego?
only a program that you come in as a big shot, and if you're lucky, you get promoted to servant.
Right. You know
Well,
what I mean?
and the three pillars of this program,
Right.
look at it as a chair. You need three legs, and you take one of them away.
Yeah.
You need all three. It's a foundation, man.
So, I mean, I got my people, like I got the guys that I work with, and I've got service commitments because it's important, right? I'm not going to say that.
Say it.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of the people, and I'm not going to say that they shouldn't be here, as
Right.
opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
they don't need to be here. Because if I didn't need to be here,
Oh my
I
god!
wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here.
no.
Right.
It's Friday
Right.
night.
Yep.
I'd be out right now, socially snorting cocaine.
Yes.
Right now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What else would you do?
Right. Go to a movie.
Wait.
But you know, I think a lot of them hide in service commitments.
I've seen it.
I think a lot of them hide there, and it is what it is. But if you don't understand the principles of the program, if you don't understand our biggest principle, I believe, in the groups is anonymity, right? We let people, you know, she's an alcoholic, right? I don't care that she's a 25-year-old female from Owatonna and might not have been smoked crack for 12 years like I did, and all these things that are
Right.
separating us
Yep.
inside the walls, right? I don't care. She's an alcoholic.
Right.
right?
What about
Let's do some AA.
Yep.
You
Right.
know what I mean? And I think
the
there's
similarities?
right. I think we're bringing in a lot of outside shit into this that I really don't care about.
Yep.
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't
Hey.
care about I don't care what, this. Okay.
Come on.
I don't care if you're black.
Come on.
I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're a female. I don't care if you're part of the LGBTQ plus community. I don't give a shit. Are you an alcoholic? If you're an alcoholic, come on in, sit down. Let's get better.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Cover.
Let's get better.
And why has that become? This is a whole bigger ball wax. Why has that become so terrible to say what you just said?
I don't know. I don't think it's terrible.
No,
It's keeping the people that I don't want around me away from me.
That's why I love when Rick comes on. He holds his own on that too.
Dude, that dude scares the shit out of me.
He
He doesn't scare me.
No, but
like long timers like that.
But see, he's one of the I don't see many long timers like that. I mean,
they're there.
into the book, sponsoring guys, full of doing commitment.
Come 1099.
Speaking, what's that?
Come 1099.
Yeah.
Call him to what?
Come to 1099
Come
pain.
1099.
Oh, does he go down there too?
No.
Oh,
No, but
they've got a lot
meet,
of good.
yeah, you'll
Okay.
meet more.
All right. I'm just saying, and like I said, that comes down to like where do I end up going? Like that's on me to find it
Yeah,
now.
I know a lot of long timers.
Yeah, I mean, and I can respect that. Like, stand on what you. I don't know, and I don't see nothing wrong with what you said. It
No, and I
shouldn't
think
matter.
that
My disease didn't give a shit if I'm fat or skinny or
Right.
black
No.
or white or he, she, they, them. It wanted to kill me.
No.
Right.
If I look at it that way, it didn't give a shit.
And it doesn't discriminate.
No, hell no, it didn't. So why should I discriminate about how we do our recovery?
I can tell you what, I have exhausted every single solitary way of trying to do this, right? If I could just call up Sam or Ben or some of the guys down at 1099 or you, hey, Tim, come on, man. Let's just do a couple of trust falls and we'll be good for the week. You know what I mean? That'd be awesome.
If it was that easy.
That'd be awesome.
Right.
No, but someone did the work before me and put it all in black and white.
Right. And I had,
I don't need to
that's been
reinvent it
passed
either.
Down. That's why this was written so it wouldn't water down, right? That's what we got people saying in meetings going, keep coming back. When they do that, look at them and go, why?
Mm.
99% of the time they're going to say, because it works if you work it. And then you look at them and say, what works? People think I'm being combative, right? I just want to know where you're at.
Yeah, let me hear.
You know, they'll turn around and walk away from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and like I listened to a guy that would talk about like next time you
I love it.
want to ask somebody to sponsor you, just walk up to them and say, have you had an experience? Have you had a spiritual experience because of the result of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Oh,
And just see it and see what they say. Like, cause it's like, what? You know, like I'd like to have one too. You know, like it's like, cause if you haven't,
you don't got what I want.
then what are we gonna meet about? What are we
Mhm.
gonna talk about?
You guys, we've gone over 2 hours.
I know.
And it
is
didn't feel like it, but
crazy.
this room I found gets hot after. It's cold when we get in here, but then it gets hot when we start doing some good talking. What do you guys want to keep her going, or it's up to you? Like I told you, dude, this is your show, and I can open up some more topics, and we can keep talking. And otherwise, I'm gonna take a left turn, and we're gonna do some wrapping up type stuff.
I really don't. I mean,
We got people. People are tuned in. They're tuned in, and there'll be about 1,000 to 1,500 that check it out tomorrow, and another 1,000 that'll listen on Sunday. And we're probably TikTok has been stupid numbers lately.
really.
Yeah, I just started that 3 weeks ago. And I got a TikTok wizard here. This dude be at work on TikTok. All right, so
For like
You know what?
3/4 of this podcast, I wondered what the hell he was doing.
I told you I
'Cause
had.
he'd turn it and he'd point the camera at me and then he'd turn it and point it at her. And I'm like, what's this dude doing? And then I was like, I remember
I
you
was gonna
saying,
say I got a TikTok. I got a
TikTok.
video guy coming in.
you know,
Dwayne. This is Dwayne.
Hey, Dwayne.
He's one of my
Dwayne.
brothers.
Man, What
Is there anything else that do we have? Do
There
we have
will be
any
a part,
burning
like,
desires?
No, I'll give you guys
Yeah.
that. I got a little script at the end here.
I mean, yeah, I'm good. I'm good with whatever.
Right.
It's Friday night.
Hey,
I was
do
doing.
have to
I was
wake up.
doing way crazier stuff.
I have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
See, look, we're over here passing
This-
the cup.
yeah, like,
you know, we
don't-
got.
If you try one of these, be extra careful. Like they don't even. I couldn't even tear it. I think these are about 10 years old. I don't know. Someone brought them in.
Oh, great. Yep. See, we're eating candy from strangers.
You might have a new sober date. I don't know.
That's why I'm so ready to go.
Yeah, I get my guests all whacked. I used to give everyone Red Bulls, and then someone's like, "Tim, you gotta stop doing that." Like, I think it was Rick. He's like, "I don't want this shit." He comes in with his bottles of Perrier water and shit. But
No, it's funny too. Like Rick taught me how to meditate.
yeah, me too.
Rick is like
that
the-
TM shit.
Yeah.
I went over there and did courses, and when he shared about it on here, there's like I said this. But here's the thing: like we're talking what saved my ass is. I'm not scared to say it. For Tim Warren, Alcoholics Anonymous is where I found where I got this new life of happy, joyous, and free shit. I had a spiritual awakening. That's what worked for me. I'm not here to tell Dwayne what's going to work for him.
Right. Exactly.
And I stopped doing that at around year 3 after I did about 50 of these shows. And I started hearing all these other people's experience. I had a couple people come on. They've been TM work for them. That's it. Another dude, Buddhism. And he had like 10 years. I had multiple people, church. It worked for them.
Right.
And they seemed happy. One girl came in and said, "Yeah, I dropped my kids off at my mom's and checked myself in a motel and kicked for 2 weeks." And she was on with 3 years. Now, she may have seemed like she was being, I got to be careful. She wasn't the happiest person, but whatever. Like, I learned at that point, like, it's not for me to tell you how to do your recovery, unless you're asking me, and I can refer you to a book. But this show has given that to me after talking to so many people. Like, hey, whatever works for you. Like, find your. That's on you, not me. Not for me to tell you what to do.
Right. We have no monopoly on God.
Nope. And I'm just like, that's why with Rick, like, he talked about that TM shit one day on the show. He wasn't promoting it really, but then I tried whatever. Yeah, we can go down another rabbit hole, but like I love that. I would have never met any of these people if I didn't get into this room.
Exactly.
You know?
And the only reason that I didn't even believe that the meditation would work. The only reason I was intrigued was because the first time I ever met him at 2218, he just sat like that.
Yep.
And I could see it. I could see like the calmness, the peace, and I just like remember being like,
I thought he
man,
was
what's up with this dude? You know, he's
he's
in there, got his eyes shut sometimes, but nodding his head. And I'm like, this dude's like way too calm.
Yep.
And I remember this is like talk about a spiritual experience. I used to be the person that would sit in the chair and shake my leg violently, like right next to you
Just
too,
filled
for
with-
like the entire duration of the meeting. You're like, please stop. And I remember that he was like, that'll quit when you do TM. And I was like, there's no, like, please stop. Please stop. Whatever you're like, I'm like, I've tried guided meditation. I've tried, like, I don't like meditation. This is not going to work. And I did it anyways, right? Spiritual, I can do things I don't believe in.
Mhm.
And
get results you can't deny.
I can't deny the fact that like there's times where if I'm shaking my leg, like my boyfriend will look at me and be like, you need to meditate, don't you? And I do. And I can, there is days where I've been like, there is absolutely no way I'm going to make it through this day. And I do that second meditation and I'm like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's,
you know, and so but those are the guys, like you said, they're wizards to me. I mean,
he was the first dude that I really realized, like, I don't mean to say like, oh, let it go, but nothing was phasing. Like, I heard people coming to him with shit and like topics would get brought up. And like, if you know him on another level, like he's got his beliefs about certain other topics that he's very strong about.
Yeah.
Whether it's conspiracy, whatever. But like, I watched shit really not phase him. And I wanted that. Like, you know, some shit gets under your skin about how people are in meetings. And I'm not saying that doesn't get it, but like, he'll just say, like you said it too, but then it just, maybe it does get him inside. And I'm speaking for him, but it's just like, I wanted that. Like, I wanted to not let it affect me. I don't like when shit affects me, damn it.
I think that's some of the magic that like some of these old timers have. I was having another, you know, my boyfriend John is sponsored by a guy, Pat. And he's been I think he just took like his 38-year medallion, right? And I was saying, what was I saying? We were talking something about, that like the balls, right? The balls that you have to say things to guys, you know, and he had said that, he had looked at him and he had said, you haven't grown spiritually in a year. And he was like, that's not the impressive part. The impressive part is that he waited a year to say it. He never pointed. He let me do whatever I felt like I needed to do, right? Slip back into self-will. And when I finally came to him for like whatever, when I came to, he was like, well, yeah, you haven't grown spiritually for a year. You know, it's like he wasn't thumping him on the head and chasing him down like, what are you doing? You need to sponsor. You need to read your book. You need to. He sat back and he was ready. And that's right. He was ready to help him when you wanted help, you know, but that's
reach out for the hand.
That's some of the like power of the old timer that, you know, like, you haven't grown spiritually in a year. That like sounds like something that like somebody would say in my nightmare. You know, it's like, but this is where it's like
saying that with no
hell yeah.
I can hear you saying that with no issues.
Oh, yeah.
Right, exactly.
I've been told that. You know,
pick a number 1 through 77.
21.
21. This is the left turn of the show.
Okay.
Favorite quote.
Favorite quote? Can I pick a different number?
Pick a number 1 through 77.
Favorite quote. 11.
If you could visit any place in the world, where would you choose to go?
This is so lame. This is so lame. I can't. It's the first thing that came to my head, and I cannot believe that I'm about to say it. Is I've never been to Florida.
Oh, why is that lame?
And that's like not where if I could go anywhere, that I would like pick like, you know,
anywhere.
Fiji or something. But like realistically, who hasn't been to Florida?
lots of people, I would assume.
Have you all been to Florida?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so
75%.
what? Exactly. So
Terry, pick a number 1 through 77. Give 1 through 100. I'm giving him a bigger pool to choose from.
oh wow. Okay.
I'll do my number that they gave me on that ticket. I'll do 77.
77. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. What was your favorite game to play as a child?
Football.
Football. Dwayne, pick a number 1 through 100.
Let's go 69.
You can't go wrong. Like and 69. What's your favorite tradition or holiday? Get on that mic, boy.
I don't know. Traditional holiday. Christmas for real.
Christmas.
Yeah.
We do another round. Sam, 1 through 100. You eat some of that hard ass candy.
Sorry, I'm gonna be chewing for 15 minutes.
I know. 1 through 114. Oh, them last ones are dumb. 1 through 101.
101.
If you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would it be?
If I could eliminate one thing from my daily routine, maybe like the nighttime, like brushing my teeth, taking a shower. I feel like it takes up so much at the time. Like if I could just like have good teeth and not stink or have greasy, like, and just eliminate that and get away with it, like 100%.
I don't think you're alone on that. Terry, 1 through 101 or 100. 1 through 100.
Let's do 71.
71. What is your favorite breakfast food?
Oh,
Bacon.
Bacon.
Come on, man.
Bacon.
Yes.
You had that
Bacon.
bacon, baby. Dwayne, 1 through 100.
Pass that cup.
Let's do
I got old people Werthers here too. If you guys
Werther's
want.
are so damn good. 30.
Calm down with that old people talk.
30. Why have you been eating? No, all right, 30.
No.
Oh, try those are so good. Them are good for a long time.
What color?
All right, number 30. Where is the last place you went for the first time? That's a tricky one to think of. The, the feds?
The best.
All right. That's the real talk. You know, we're doing another round. I like these. Kind of taper off the show. And then we got one attitude for gratitude question. And we talk about your gratitude and then we wrap up. Sam, pick a number 1 through 100, but you can't pick 69, 77, 11, or 22, or whatever other numbers they pick.
30.
Or 30.
45.
45. What is your most used emoji?
For sure, the laughing face, but
Is it
the
sideways?
sideways laughing face.
25? You said you're 25?
26.
1 through 100.
Don't get me started on that. Too.
10.
And what's your favorite cartoon character?
Oh, Foghorn Leghorn.
Foghorn Leghorn.
What was the question?
What was your favorite cartoon character? Foghorn Leghorn. I just like saying it.
Yeah.
1 through 100.
They already do 50 or no?
Nope.
50.
You have your own late night talk show. Who do you invite as your very first guest? Alive or dead?
Oh.
Oh.
Past or present?
I don't know. Honestly, for real, probably like King Von, just because of
That one, the rapper guy who died?
Yeah.
yeah.
Same question. You have your own late night talk show.
Jesus.
Jesus. Same question.
Elvis Presley.
Elvis Presley. Any superpower in the world, what would it be?
Be able to read minds.
Oh,
Okay,
hell
follow-up
no.
question.
You'd be getting in more fist fights. For
Follow-up
sure.
question is controlled mind reading, right? Not just you're hearing three people.
No, I mean, if like I wanted to know what you were thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
We had a debate about that one. Well,
No,
you didn't
last
clarify. Yeah. Superpower. Any
Teleport.
Teleport is good.
That was-
that is a
That was easy. Are you kidding me? You guys, I would not even have to get into the car to go home. I could just be home, not showering or
I'm
brushing my
thinking
teeth.
Fiji in Florida. She's like, no, go home right to bed. Like,
For real.
pop.
Take me to my bed
I don't
now.
have to drive
Thank
to the
you.
meeting late
Goodbye.
night. I just boom, I'm at the meeting.
She wants
Literally.
to be a senior citizen.
I know. Oh, Terry, the name of this show is called Attitude for Gratitude. What's your gratitude look like?
You know, a long time ago, my sponsor gave me a assignment. Gave a bunch of us our assignments, right? Because we were all ego driven and stuff. And he said, for the next week, I want you, every morning when you wake up, I want you to write the 5 things that you're grateful for. Right? Yep. Every single one of us did this assignment for the whole week. I mean, we were like walking on water. We were so spiritual the next week when we went in there. And so he said, now for the next week, every morning when you wake up, I want you to write 5 things that you're grateful for. And then before you go to sleep at night, I want you to write how you showed gratitude for the things that are on your gratitude list in the morning. And I can tell you that almost nobody completed that assignment. And so what I've learned is gratitude. You want to know how grateful I am? Wash my feet.
Yup.
Wash my
Come
feet.
on now. Come on now.
That's
I'm
it.
Muted.
That's it. Watch
You
them.
muted me.
Watch how they're moving.
Come on now.
Come on.
Come on now.
You know, through it. No, I don't know. What do you mean? Watch
My feet. Am I doing the things that, am I getting up?
Right.
Am I
Oh, are you?
Am I
are you-
praying? Am I meditating? Am I doing my inventories? Am I going out to these
Do
meetings?
your actions follow your
Do
words?
my
Right.
actions follow? Because gratitude, If
is
I'm
an
just sitting on
action.
my ass, it's selfish.
Yep.
Gratitude's an action.
Absolutely.
But that we can talk.
But I
about.
mean,
I'm
people,
glad-
and that's, people can say that, but do they understand what it truly means? Like, am I grateful for the life that God has given me? Right? Or am I sitting there on my couch, ball out, watching TV?
Ghost
Hunters?
Right.
hunters.
You know what I mean? Is that what I'm doing? Right? Or am I okay, 10 a.m. I have somewhere downtown I have to be, then I have to come back and maybe I get a little nap time. But every time I go take my nap, see, I don't turn my phone off. People call. I got to answer the phone. You know what I mean? Am I doing those things or am I shutting my phone off?
Right.
Right? Am I grateful for the life that I've been given if I'm shutting my phone off? Now, I've also had some friends come up and say, hey, man, you need to get a hobby or something.
Right.
You need to go do
What
something.
do you do for fun?
Like, what do I do? This is fun. I
I was just
love
saying,
this.
isn't this your hobby and your life? And
It is. But it'd be
And
nice
we
to
could
get
literally
out.
be here all night. Like it's like bar close time.
Yeah,
We're
it
like
would be-
hanging out doing a sober podcast.
It would be
So-
cool with it.
nice to be able to find some people to go throw some disc golf with.
Oh my God, let's do it.
bro.
You know what I mean?
Get down to Kaposia or come on, bro.
Kaposha. I played Kaposha. That was where we played, dude. Butler.
Come
Dude,
on.
Butler. I mean,
I can teach you
that was,
some. I can
That
teach
was
you how to
20
play.
years ago. You know what I mean?
They redid it.
Did they?
I
So
struggle
how-
with that too, though. Like, at what point am I like so busy doing all of the like my best friend that I talked about, my gluten-free best friend? Like, at what point am I so busy doing all? She'll like tell me, I'll be like, well, why didn't you ask me for help? And she's like, because you're always busy. So at what point am I like so busy doing all of this that like, although sometimes it seems like work and sometimes it's a lot of fun, like tonight, but at what point am I neglecting certain parts of my life? Like at what point am I not ever available to be of service to my best
But here's
friend?
the thing. I think this goes to now. What you're saying, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
You're the one who's gonna know that though.
right.
I mean, are you for me, it comes down to like, do I know I'm happy and content with what I'm doing? Because I was about to follow up with what you're saying, like, or do you feel like you're getting burnt out? Haven't you felt like you're getting burnt out on the AA shit? I've had a lot of people say no.
Absolutely.
Well,
But my life, yeah. I mean, I think everybody does.
and I don't know if burnt out was right. I'm trying to correlate it to what you're bringing up, but like, and I'm answering for you in my own head. Like, I know if my friends are like, this is coming first, and if I want to show up,
That'll
for
come
them,
first, yeah.
you could make time for her, but she's also the type of friend that notices like, this is what's saving my girl's life, and she's just being honest with you, like, hey, you're busy.
Right.
Have you ever been as burnt out with AA as the day you walked into AA?
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I get it. I don't get to say I'm burnt out on it. I mean, I can feel that way at times.
Yeah, I do.
You know,
Yeah.
I get into that
Yeah.
self-pity.
Oh, 100%.
God damn, that's all I do. And I'm
Why
doing
do
this all-
I have to do
Right.
it?
Yeah.
Can't you call somebody else?
Yeah. No, I
Why
get it.
me?
But the second I mean, and luckily, like, it all goes back to like, you finally got surrounded by the right people. You had the right people. Like, thank God I had some guys that explained to me I don't really get to do that. If I want this life, if I
Right.
want this whole
How
happy,
free do you
joyous,
wanna
and
be?
free, and like, yeah, if I want that, like, I don't get to boo-hoo, poor me, pity party bullshit.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna still inside.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my head goes there. I'm sick too.
Right.
Attitude for gratitude. What's gratitude look like?
Action. The same thing we were just talking about. I think this is so funny because Brooke that goes to our Monday meeting that just had a baby. I know Terry does it. Yeah,
I'm pretty
keep up with the
self-absorbed.
you.
Yeah.
Are we sure? I'm a little bit of a gratitude hater. I just like writing a list has never made me like, oh my God, everything's so great now because like of course, like, yeah, I'm happy I have a roof over my head. I'm happy I have a bed. You know, I broke my femur like 5 years ago. I'm happy that I can walk, right? I am like I know these things. Like I'm grateful for them, of course, but like, you know, I think like the best
What do
thing.
you think? It's an ego thing to spotlight your gratitude? Or what don't you like? What I don't get your beef with
I
gratitude.
just don't think like making a list of things I'm grateful about like makes me a grateful person. Like Terry talked about, you know, like
being all analytical with a fun ass question.
no, I think action like that's, you know, like I woke up. I think it was 2 Easter, not this last Easter, the Easter before. I had to work. I'm in the restaurant industry, so you have to work, which is, and so self-pity, right? Like I have to work on Easter. I don't get to spend it with my baby. And then I go to the meeting and then now I have to go to this dumb meeting. And I signed up for detox. Who signs up for detox on Easter? This is so dumb. No time with my kid. And I get to detox. And this guy is in tears talking about how much he misses his kids. Do you want to talk about gratitude? Because guess who got to go home and tuck their son in? That's where I'm saying. But like me saying, well, I guess I'm grateful I have a job.
Well, that's not
You know, that's
right there. No, perfect. Yeah. That's a perfect thing. You just told me. I'm grateful I got to go home to my kid after detox.
Right, but that's not.
I didn't say make me a gratitude list and
No,
turn
I
it
know,
in for
but I
5
think
days in a row.
Oh,
7 days.
Even though if you didn't follow the first part of that,
and
was
another
the guys were
7
jacked
after.
and happy until they had to
Right.
And what was the second part of that? Until they had to, everyone was jacked and all spiritually.
Yeah, until we had to write how we showed gratitude for those things showed
it,
our
the
action
Okay.
through the day. Like I was grateful for my truck, but
Like, how'd you?
did you
wash it? Did you?
Yeah. Is
Okay.
it clean?
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my job. Am I
Did you go
grateful
above
for
and
my
beyond that
job? But did I take 45-minute lunch?
I see.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
He said 90% of the boys didn't finish that assignment. And I'm not trying to shit on your guys. It's your guys' answers. Like, I get it. That's where you're at with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing though, like, is like, we're just like not, I think that's why, like, when Terry was like, do you want to do this with me? I was like, absolutely. Because like, that's,
bro, you know what? Good choice. I was going to supply him with a guest, but he's like, nah, I got it. And the second he put a name out there, I'm like, I trust. I got you.
Yeah. And I just think it's funny because me and my friend Brooke talk about this all the time. She's like, you know, I felt so much better when I would do a nightly gratitude list. And she laughs at me because I'll always sigh and roll my eyes, you know, because and I know, like, you know what? Contempt prior to investigation. Maybe I should start trying a gratitude list.
No,
but I go through, when I pray, I'm like, I am grateful for these things, right? But like, I guess what I'm saying, like, gratitude's never got me like really out of like myself. Like I can intuitively know that I have a life that's blessed beyond belief and still somehow find a way to be ungrateful and complain.
But here's the thing.
know?
No, I'm going to throw it back in your
face.
I
got an attitude and it's not for gratitude.
But this is why you're, yes, you
That's
do.
my problem.
Here you go. I'm going to put it back in your face in the best of ways because you just shared a story of gratitude.
Right.
I went to detox and I was boohooing my whole way there. And then a guy's crying about missing his child while you got to go home. You're grateful for that.
Right.
That is most people's experience though.
Yeah. You had to go through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I've never been, I guess I can't say never.
Right.
Right. Oh, I signed up for detox.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like, shit. I was just,
woo!
You know, and now I get to go. I get to.
No.
Right.
No.
Because I'm really working on the principle now to be a man of my word. right? When I say I'm going to do
This could be a
something,
whole nother
when I'm gonna,
podcast.
right, when I'm going to allow God to do what God wants,
Ooh.
like I want to go home and go to sleep, dude.
Yeah, you got to get up in 5 hours.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not the one running the show,
Right.
you know? And I'm great. That's, how's that for great?
Yeah.
I'm
Thank
not the
God
one running the
Terry's
show.
not running the show.
Right.
Anybody's show, my show,
Yeah.
nobody's show. You
I
know?
used to look at that as a default. I did, like, because I'm the actor, I'm
Right.
the director,
Absolutely.
I'm running this shit.
Yeah.
And now today, like, I
asset.
always try to explain this with my experience with finding a higher power. Is like, you mean I can just give this shit to something else? Like I don't have to, like I can give it over. Like to me, it's like not a hard concept. Real, you know what, Donnie C showing you big love throughout the whole show.
That's my dude.
Yep, and you're his dude.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's my dude.
I
I
know
love
you
that
tuned in
dude.
to watch his show with him and Casey on here, right?
I
And the
did not
baby.
know. I did not know, but I will see him in 2 weeks, and I cannot wait to give him a big hug
I love
and
it, man.
his wife, and to see his baby. again.
I gotta show you some. I'm sure you've seen. All right, yeah. Sidetrack shit. They're
That's my
beautiful
dude.
people. I'm
That's
so proud
my
of them.
dude.
Real
Yep.
happy family.
He's come along. Let me tell you what, man. You don't believe this program works? Talk to that dude.
Proof of the program working. So, anything you want to add to the end before we close up?
No, I don't think so.
For the struggling, suffering alcoholic out there watching the show right now, what do you say to her?
Oof.
Hmm.
Find a meeting
Those-
that carries the message with depth and weight. Find somebody that has something you want and not the car or the house. Like find somebody who has
distinction.
had a spiritual experience, who has gone through the book, who is not talking about opinions or theories, but will share their experience and help others. I mean, I think that's like really like I think I can speak for probably all of us, is that like we just wouldn't survive if that wasn't the foundation of our sobriety, right? Is like
100%.
I know that and that's like when I sponsor women, like one of the things I always say, like if from the get-go, like where are you at with God? And I don't really care what they say, in all honesty. Like you're gonna, like, I don't really, but like you're gonna get up in the morning and you're going to say, how can I be useful today? And then you're just gonna go about, like, from day one, like that's what you're gonna do, and so I think, whenever I'm taking people through the work, I really try to drill in this idea of like, do you live with your parents? Yeah. Okay. Do the dishes, take out the trash, ask them what they need done. You live in a sober house? Okay. Ask your roommates if they need anything when you go to the store. Do your chore, right? Like make your bed. Your job's to make your bed, brush your teeth, start with. And so I think, it's never too early to start helping others. I think that we start helping others immediately. And I think that it can look differently, right? It doesn't have to be podcasts and detox commitments and treatment center commitments. And I think it's highly recommendable, but I think you can open the door for someone. You can say hi.
Yeah.
You can, like a new one for me is like, I get really like afraid to say certain things. Like, hey, I like your shirt, to a girl. Oh, hey, your hair looks really good.
That stuff goes a long way with people.
And I
It really
like, and
does.
I don't know what it is about me that I like get like afraid to compliment sometimes. And that's been a thing that I'm like, no, I'm not going to do. Like, if I like your outfit, I'm going to say, hey, I like your outfit.
They'll remember that for years.
Hey, and so
People
I
do.
think
It's weird.
it's never too early to be of service, get out, help people. I think that would be like the only thing I have to add is that, like, if you feel stuck, get somewhere else. I mean, I go to a meeting Sundays, 5 p.m., 965 Larpenteur Avenue, the firing line. That's my home group. That's a good group. Terry and I go to 1099 Payne Avenue, 5:30 Monday nights. Like if you are out there and you're struggling, you feel like you're not a part of, you feel like maybe something's missing. Maybe you're not even new. Maybe you're like me. Maybe you've been sober for 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, 20 years and you're feeling stagnant. Come and join a group. Like, it's like I love. We're fired up.
Yeah.
I mean, we are on fire. I mean, we love our meeting. We love our people in it, you know, and I think we really get rambunctious, but like in a really good way. Like no one's cross talking, no one's like, but we're just
Solution based.
yes. And we love it.
It's hard to find those sometimes.
You know, and so yeah, that would be my only closing thing is like if you feel like something's missing, then get to a group and try something new, man. You never know what God's gonna put in your path.
Spitfire, I like her.
Yep.
Good call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry, talk to us. What do you want to end the show with? Guy out there struggling or something? I don't know. What do you want to add?
You know, I guess if I had anything to say to anybody out there who is struggling, you know, you don't have to live like this anymore.
Right.
You know, there's something. It might not be what I do,
Mm,
right?
good point.
But there's something out there. And when none of it works, we'll be here.
Ooh, that was
Yeah. We're
yep, there he is.
If none of
We're
it
the-
works.
Subtle
we're-
man there.
we're the last house on the left,
Yep.
There you go.
right? No one's mowed the grass in a long time. There's a lot of talking coming from the inside of that house. But let me tell you what, man, you come in that door and you don't ever have to live like, and I'll tell you what, and anyone who knows me would tell you that if this didn't work, I would go out of my way to let people know that this didn't work.
Right.
Right. And I'll tell
And he
you
wouldn't be
what,
quiet about it.
I would not be quiet about
I know.
it. I've gotten thrown out of places because of, you know, the way I tell people that this will work. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just, and it's been a while, right? I've worked on some effectiveness, right? And stuff like that. But you know, if you've got a problem with me, that's your problem.
We didn't even get to touch on that tonight, but you're right. You're 100% right.
You
Someone's got a problem with you. It's them who has the problem.
Right.
Do you want to carry that anymore? Don't need to.
I mean,
The
it's-
opposite is true though. Too.
right.
Of
I have-
course.
yeah.
Oh.
I don't, you know, there's some things in alcohol in meetings that still bug me.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like I'm sorry. I get it. You know, you got a divorce 3 years ago. You know what I mean? I get it. I understand. Well, can you believe that she doesn't want to be with me? Yeah, I can. Believe that she doesn't want to be with you. You know what I mean? You're kind of, you know, this isn't the place.
He's starting
for
to
that.
come out right at the end.
Let's talk about this after the meeting, right?
Right.
Let me see it.
Thank
Let me see it in a
you.
written inventory, and then we can sit down and talk about it after the
Sam
meeting.
brought up earlier. She hijacked. You don't hijack someone else's.
Oh,
Yeah. All right. That's what we're open.
took the meeting hostage.
But
oh
no,
my God.
that's what you're talking about. Things like that and the way you're approaching it. Whatever. No,
We're here to help you, but let me tell you what I'm not. All right. I will. When I first got here, I would give you medical advice. I'm not a doctor, right?
What?
Just because
You're not?
No.
Can I
Just-
stop taking those pills then?
Just because I've stopped, just because I've laid on a psychiatrist's couch doesn't mean that I'm a psychiatrist, right? I'm definitely not a relationship counselor because I've never been in a successful relationship in my entire life,
What about my finances?
right? Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor.
You are an attorney. Though,
What
right?
what I'm here to do is to guide you through this book so you can have your own experience and then go help somebody else. Because, like, you know, that's my character defects come and stare me right in the face through the eyes of another alcoholic that I work with,
Oh,
right? I don't get the, oh, you know, I was just a drunk. I get the meth addicted, alcoholic, crackhead maniacs who've spent most of their lives locked up or loaded. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that I get.
Come to you.
Right. Because that's who I was when I came
Right.
into the program. Right. So at the end of the day, man, we have a solution.
Come on.
oh,
He
I
cracked
gotta
it.
do it, man.
He cracked it. There's one very last question for you after you're done with this.
Okay. I'll
I just want to say too, like being part of the fellowship. Like I already touched on that, you know, but I think that that's like a huge like. If you have the opportunity and you're not taking it to go bowling, to go golfing, to go out to eat, to go to coffee, to go to ice cream, to go to what, and actually get to know, because we are human beings. You know, yes, we're sober, but we do have, you know, we have brothers and sisters and parents and hobbies and jobs and plenty that, you know, we have in we watch TV shows and we, you know, like there's plenty to talk about that and bond over. And I just, yeah, if I didn't have those relationships where I'm going to get lunch and going shopping with, you know, like I couldn't make it in the meetings if I didn't have that, you know? So I think the fellowship is a huge, like, if you've been going to meetings consistently and you're not like, you don't know a little bit about each other, I think that's a problem. What do you got for us over there?
Come on.
So I when we were doing that pick a number between one
Yeah.
and whatever, she's like, "What's your favorite quote?" I was like, "Oh."
You
Then I was
wanted it.
trying to remember what number that was.
Yeah.
And this is my favorite quote. This is I'm not gonna say who it's by,
21.
but it says if you think that you are an atheist, an agnostic, a skeptic, or have any other form of intellectual pride which keeps you from accepting what is in this book, I feel sorry for you. If you still think you are strong enough to beat the game alone, that is your affair. But if you really and truly want to quit drinking liquor for good and all, and sincerely feel that you must have some help, we know that we have an answer for you. It never fails. That's a promise.
Ooh.
If you go about it with one half the zeal you have been in the habit of showing when you are getting another drink, your heavenly Father will never let you down.
What page is that on?
181.
How did they come up with the name Gopher State?
What?
Probably because this is
Like good.
Gophers.
Is this the last question? What
have
is
no
happening
idea.
I
here?
had it post.
I have no idea. I would assume because our college is the Gophers. I don't know.
Why is it called Gopher State?
I have no idea.
Been,
Maybe this is the Gopher State. Isn't the Gopher?
you know,
like a-
everything that was shared. That's what keeps. We're
really not interested.
No, you guys are. This is one of my better shows, and my numbers prove it. Yeah, we've had like 10,000 people watch us tonight.
Oh,
No way.
that's crazy.
No, baby.
Wow.
It's hey,
What does that say about them? You know, like, what do they
She's just being
have?
funny. She's trying to be funny. She's a comedian.
Yeah.
She's
Like,
got-
I thought we had no life on a Friday night. Like,
oh no, they're at the bar listening.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh, yeah.
perfect
They
place to
keep
bring
this on the
it.
Trap House doors.
Yeah.
We used to
What's
got
up,
the- we used to have
guys?
this in a bunch of different treatment centers too, and then
Oh, how
during
cool.
COVID, they like because no one was getting out. But
Yeah.
long story. All right. Listen, before I do my wrap up, Terry,
Okay.
thank you. Sam, thank you guys.
Thank you.
I'm really grateful you guys came on and got a little vulnerable and shared some personal stuff. Like serious thank you.
Thanks for having us.
One person got help, then the job was.
Absolutely.
That's all that mattered to me. One person. I mean, all of you guys mattered, but if you're out there struggling tonight, please reach out. Like you heard Terry say, like, we're not doctors, I'm not a psychiatrist, but if you do have some mental health stuff, like, seek some help, seek some professional help, whatever the case. You're worth it. You're worth this life. You heard us talk about there is a solution. You heard in great length about some solution stuff tonight. So please reach out if you are struggling. You don't have to be alone on this. You are worth finding what we talk about. There is a solution, and I have a piece of paper that I wrote on. Well, writing meetings, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Wednesday, Rule 62 podcast with Jake and Ryan. I'm sorry if it's not Ryan. I'm so sorry. It's Jake and Ryan, the new show, Rule 62. Don't take yourself too serious. But it's a podcast that's made for meeting goers. So come on down and get on the show. They cycle through tons of guests. I think there's about 18 people that came on Wednesday, and it was a great success. So come be part of that. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. There's a men's meeting, a women's meeting here. 6:30 a.m. Solutions on 2nd Street. That is the one structured meeting that takes place here at Will Work for Recovery. 6:30 a.m. Otherwise, every night, 7 p.m. There's meetings down here. Soap Zone Factory. Chucky came in and handed out some soap again. June 7th, we got the 3rd annual Spring Fling down at Boom Island, 724 Selby Street in the Boom Island Pavilion. It's a luau themed fundraiser, prizes for best dress, kids, game, relay races, minnow races, pancake breakfast by Brad B at 9 a.m. And there's a 50-50 raffle. It's going to be a blast. And then the Ripple Run's coming up too. Same weekend as the Ride for Recovery. Like, get involved, do that, or come out and see some beautiful riding, like good riding, out there in Wisconsin. It's going to all be a blast. We got a lot of stuff coming up in recovery. Get involved, be part of, not apart from. And like I said earlier, and you heard a lot of solution-based talk tonight, you can come get some of this. You heard what Terry read. Like, come get you some. It's here for the taking. It's free. And you know what? I love you. We'll talk to you next week. Dwayne, thank you. I love you. Thank you. Dwayne, the cameraman, the TikTok champion. Adios. Woo!
Oh
Good.
my God. Thank God.